What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty. Join my Discord if you want to chat and share your thoughts, the link is in the description.
6SG. Chapter 161 There is nothing that a hot pot meal can't solve. It is an exception in the universe for people like Wang Hao to transform from a human into a cosmic god. Janata and Little Phoenix, born cosmic gods, view life differently from Wang Hao. For them, for all the gods of the universe, whether they are human beings or other creatures, their lives are too short. Even existences like Thor and Odin will fall into deep sleep, let alone mortals. As for Little Phoenix and the others, tens of thousands of years will pass by once they sleep. No matter how magnificent the civilization is, no matter how powerful the life is, if it cannot reach this level, then you really don't need to care about it. Just like what Janata said, even if she doesn't eat, humans on Earth can only live for so long. As for what they can do with such a long life, what does Wang Bailing have to do with her? So she didn't understand why a planet with life was any different from a planet without life. Is that what she thinks? Tell Wang Hao about the idea of Ganata that I have perceived, and the Little Phoenix's little head straightened up. Then you think so too. Wang Hao's gaze was still looking at Little Phoenix, and the little guy put his index finger to his mouth, thought for a while and nodded without any hesitation. Alright, I got it. Wang Hao sighed. Dare to feel that he is the abnormal one. In fact, why doesn't he have this idea? The reason why he is still willing to stay on the Earth, is still willing to play here, and is also willing to help mankind. In fact, it's just because there are food, games, music, animation or other things he likes on the Earth. Advertisement. He also has a sense of nostalgia as a human being. But one can think about it, after thousands of years, after tens of millions of years, this feeling will eventually fade away, and I'm afraid he will become like this by then. But you still have to take care of it now. After all, he's still on Earth, isn't he? Change another planet. This planet is not good. As compensation, I will take you to eat something delicious. Delicious. A while later, under Wang Hao's persuasion, Janata, who changed into casual clothes, came to Yushi and sat in one of the most authentic and famous local hot pot restaurants. And on this square table, sitting opposite is Wang Hao, who still misses the graceful figure of Janata who didn't shy away from changing her costume just now. Next to him is Little Phoenix holding chopsticks and looking at Janata's Chan. Is this what you said was delicious? There was an aroma of pepper and some pungent smells in the air. And on their table, a pot of butter pot full of spiciness was gurgling, and it was about to boil. Some animal fats, various plant tissues, and a mixture of water and salt, etc., are very low in calories and low in nutritional value. Janata analyzed the ingredients in the butter pot in front of her, but there was nothing special about it. It was the smell in the air that made her feel even hungrier. Okay, I can eat something hot and start it. To be honest, I don't have to worry about the chrysanthemum residue and swollen mouth the next day, and no matter how much I eat, I won't feel full. It's so cool. Wang Hao grinned, and poured down a plate of fat beef directly. A second later, the hot butter pan cooked the top fat beef as thin as snowflakes. The meat can be quickly picked up by Quicksilver's hands with a speed that makes Quicksilver feel ashamed, and then distributed to everyone's plate. Wang Hao smiled mysteriously. A little girl who has only eaten energy, the hot pot that has developed the taste experience to the peak is not enough for you. Eat it. Advertisement. Demonstrated to Little Phoenix and Janata, and Shanur beside him couldn't hold back and started. She often haunts various gourmet restaurants with Wang Hao, and of course she can't do without sweeping hot pot restaurants. Well, at the entrance of the meat slices, all kinds of tastes rushed in for a while, impacting the taste cells of the diners, and then turned into electrical signals and flooded into their brains, making the brains madly secrete dopamine, which represents happiness and excitement. In an instant, the whole person was satisfied. Almost at the same time, the eyes of Little Phoenix and Janata lit up, and while their mouths kept moving, their faces were filled with happy smiles. This is the power of gourmet food. In other words, I suddenly want to visit those gourmet worlds, which are only made of ordinary ingredients, and those worlds, such as gourmet captives, are made of ingredients with amazing catch levels. How delicious is it? Seeing that Janata and Little Phoenix in front of him had started to cook other ingredients by themselves without a teacher, Wang Hao also began to think about it. But don't worry, there is plenty of time, and there are plenty of opportunities to report slowly. It would be outrageous to eat what is in the bowl and think about what is in the pot farther away. Wang Hao quickly put those messy thoughts behind him, and only thought about it later when he got tired of the world. After Wang Hao immersed himself in eating, the combat power at the dinner table increased a lot again. These four are all gods, and meals are not counted by bowls, but by a few planets. After a while, the ingredients on the table are eaten clean. 2.8. But Wang Hao had already prepared for it, and asked people to prepare more fresh ingredients in advance, so another table of ingredients was brought up, and the soup should be added. It takes several hours to eat a meal, and the ingredients consumed are enough for Wen's family to keep for a few days before it is over. Come back next time. Don't keep eating if you like it, you can't get enough. A dense mass of energy was condensed in his hand, and he turned it into a lollipop and handed it to Janata, letting her stick out her small tongue to lick it bit by bit. Naturally, these things can't make her full, and even just arouse her appetite. If you really want to fill her stomach, you can only rely on Wang Hao. Anyway, there is already a Little Phoenix, and it doesn't make much difference to raise another one. Chapter 162 This world can't keep you anymore, Tony Stark. Ask, what should you do when you have endless energy and can't spend it all? The answer is to raise a few girls who can eat. A little phoenix hanging around his neck like a koala, a Janata who always chases him for lollipops, and the moon goddess who is inseparable from him. This is Wang Hao's current family situation. See, I'm very busy, so if I have anything to say, I'll take them to dinner. The girls in the room are more beautiful than each other, and according to Wang Hao's introduction, each girl is more terrifying than the other. If Janata can't get enough to eat, she will eat the earth. Little Phoenix can't be angry, the whole universe will be in danger if angry. Seeing Wang Hao working so hard to take care of the girls, although it seems very inconsistent, Nick Fury really doesn't know what to say. When the words of gratitude come to my lips, I can't always say 18 out of my mouth. Why bringing a baby and having a girl is enough to save the world? Is the world changing so fast that he, the former head of S.H.I.E.L.D., can't keep up with the times? Actually, there is nothing wrong with it, but our first Sun Plaza has been completed, so I hope you can come forward to cut the ribbon at that time. The country of May is now a country where politics and religion are united. After more than a year of turmoil, with the reshuffle of Hydra and those behind-the-scenes dignitaries, the power class in this country has been completely subverted. The rule of the big plutocrats in the past has come to an end very thoroughly.
In the current Mei country, the presidential palace headed by Nick Fury and the Sun God sect headed by Luo Cheng are jointly governed. In fact, the basic governance model has not changed, but the previous separation of 3 powers has become the current 4 powers. Advertisement in addition to judicial power, executive power, and legislative power, there is another divine power. But theocracy is superior to the first 3 rights. It's not that Wang Hao said he wanted to be above, he didn't have time to spare, it was made by those people voting themselves. After experiencing Hydra and the reshuffle, the people lost their trust in the old system, so they handed over the supreme power directly to Wang Hao and to the church led by Luo Cheng. Definitely, this is not bad, it just gives Wang Hao and the church a reason to intervene when they really need to. For example, next time, if an organization similar to Hydra appears within them, they can directly take action to rectify it in the interests of the people. And now that the government and the church are united, Wang Hao has become the supreme leader in the sense of Megu spirit, and the lady holding the Declaration of Independence is honorably off work. In this case, some formalism is needed. The first Sun Plaza came into being. A newly built square stands in the capital of Penetan. In order to commemorate the great sun god, the god of light, the god of hope, and the god of the future, people built this square to express that they have established a connection with the gods. You guys are really busy, okay, I will go there. Well, it's not very good for the true god to show up, I will give a signal. After getting Wang Hao's affirmative answer, Nick Fury was slightly relieved. Things over there are not too much trouble, I left someone there. In this case, the original so-called plot has long been destroyed. However, after hearing his words, Wang Hao gave him a very strange look. Advertisement after he came back, he was busy integrating the Sentinel technology he obtained from Steric Industries into his armor. The black armor behind him, with a constantly fluctuating surface, was the prototype of that thing. Some might even feel that Wang Hao doesn't approve of their actions. Yes, after many changes, the Earth has entered an era of great development. Are you leaving again? The matter on Earth X has not been resolved yet. The development of human beings encountered bottlenecks before, the Earth's resources were limited, and there was no major breakthrough in aerospace technology, which led to increasingly tense regional situations and the like. With the reorganization of Megu and the explosion of science and technology, the first joint long-distance space fleet is about to set off in the middle of the year. I want to make a call to Pepper. Tony Stark, you're addicted. What, is this world bad, can't you keep you? Wang Hao said don't worry, although the watchman left, but not all of Wang Hao's people left. After all, Wang Hao has performed miracles many times. If they took the initiative to build a square to commemorate Wang Hao, but Wang Hao did not come, it would be a blow to them to some extent. The branch of the Sun God sect has already been established there, and Luo Cheng often visits through the quantum space-time tunnel, and there is the leader Apocalypse over there, don't worry about going to the inherent ending. It is foreseeable that in the next few years, human beings on Earth will enter the interstellar era. Okay, but we'd better find a space-time data that is close to our world, so that we won't have trouble controlling the time to leave like last time. The world is getting more and more troublesome. I like the feeling of doing things, but this kind of serious atmosphere is meaningless. But after the alien invasion, all that changed. Tony 613 in the laboratory shouted at the top of his voice. Chapter 163. Magical Girl Wanda. Oh, boss, my god, Angkor, please, take me with you, travel through time and space, how can you not take me with you for such a fun thing? I can still provide you with service, see, for you I have studied Chinese, how do you use this idiom? A 40-year-old man, with a scruffy beard on his face, babbled in a tone so greasy that even his wife couldn't stand it. Stop, don't disgust me, just go if you want to, I can still stop you. In fact, what Wang Hao said is true, the quantum communication device was made by Tony, and he himself has mastered the technology of the quantum space-time tunnel. If he really wants to travel in time and space, he can go anywhere, and no one can stop him. But the problem is that other time and space are uncertain and full of dangers. It is very likely that there is nothing special on the surface, but there is a big devil who can destroy the world hidden behind his back. Take Earth X for example. Tony can search for some information on the internet, but will that information tell him that the world is open? Even if he knows that there are powerful mutants like Charles and Magneto, how strong they are, and whether his technology can handle them, these things cannot be told by the network information. He wanted to play, not die. He hadn't created his own Lil Morgan yet, so naturally he didn't want to die in a different time and space like this. So far, he has only dared to travel with Wang Hao. After all, with the presence of the great god Wang Hao, his life is still guaranteed. Then when will we leave? Wait and see, I have to go somewhere. The quantum communication device has been in operation, but it has been taken over by Haoshin. The information of countless time and space has been screened and classified according to Wang Hao's memory and impression under the records of this supercomputer. So there is no need to spend extra time looking for the world. Wang Hao already has a goal. Kamar Taj, on the snow for thousands of years, a beautiful figure is comprehending the mysteries of nature and magic in the cold wind. The extraordinary magical ability made her study here extremely fast, or she was exploring her own potential. Advertisement. Who? When comprehending nature, a special figure suddenly appeared, and the girl's defense was immediately touched. Wanda turned her head suddenly, only to see a man as handsome as the sun standing behind her, looking at her with interest. Is life here still enjoyable? Where's your daughter? Why didn't you bring her here? Wanda stroked the hair around her ears. Her face was calm, but she couldn't hide the slight joy in her eyes. Little Phoenix is not my daughter. Did Ancient One say something bad about me to you?
Wang Hao, who was hit by the soul crit, seemed a little helpless, and Xiaofeng Wang's entanglement really made him look like his daughter. Among other things, it took a lot of effort to get her off her neck when I went out today. The condition is that you have to hug her when you sleep tonight, so that she can absorb the thick and warm solar energy.
Ms. Ancient One is a good person, she won't speak ill of others. Wanda snorted softly, turned around and began to flex her muscles. Kamar Taj's magician seems to have learned from Tofu, and he is obviously a magician who releases waves, but he likes to turn into two knives to chop people up. My lord, times have changed. Wang Hao, who was awakened, replied without changing his face. What are you doing here? Advertisement. He is not the only one who has mastered the power of the dark universe. Ancient One has been able to resist him for so many years with the time gem, which shows that his testosterone is not as exaggerated as Nuo's. That's it, since there are no problems, I'll go first. Then it's no problem. The power gem, mind gem, and space gem are all here. The reality gem has not yet appeared, and the time gem is with you. The soul gem has no effect on its own, but is only a stabilizer for coordinating the power of other gems. Then don't worry about Thanos' problems.
At some point, Ancient One appeared behind Wang Hao. Seeing him staring at his proud disciple intently, Ancient One became out of breath. But now that I think about it, without infinite gems, Thanos can't even beat Odin, so it's not a threat, so there's no need to take care of it. Ah, I'm here to find you. What's the situation on Dormammu's side? I have to go out recently. If necessary, I'll talk to him first, so as to save the Earth from being destroyed when I go out.
Dormammu is known as the monarch of the Dark Universe, but in fact, he is just a lord of the Dark Universe. Those cosmic evil gods seem majestic, but compared with Wang Hao, they're still a lot worse. I have never worried about Dormammu's problem, and the fact that you are sitting on the Earth has already spread throughout the multi-universe space, and those evil gods dare not make mistakes. Besides, I still have the time gem. In fact, when Wang Hao went to Xandar last time, he could have killed Thanos by the way. Drinking the tea hand-baked by Ancient One, Wang Hao asked nonchalantly, looking at the sweaty practicing girl outside from time to time. Although he has been standing outside for more than an hour. Home. But that expedition experience was not pleasant, and there was a huge gap between reality and ideals, so Wang Hao ran back without stopping. But watching a beautiful girl in a red magician gown stretch her body and then shake her fists and feet is also a different kind of visual enjoyment. Chapter 164. My apprentice will give it to you. Hey, don't worry. Seeing that Wang Hao turned around and was about to leave, Ancient One held him back. Take Wanda with you. What? Wang Hao looked at Ancient One in surprise, not understanding what she meant. However, Ancient One's expression remained unchanged, and he just said lightly. Wanda's ability is extraordinary, even surpassing me in strange, but at the same time, while her extraordinary ability allows her to quickly master magic, it will also be easier to be attracted by certain factors. I worry that she will be attracted by evil gods, bewitched by the power, or discovered by them, induced to become a vessel for their arrival. Mu Shuyu Lin Feng must be destroyed. Magic ability is an extremely rare attribute. Doctor Strange's ability is already very high. If not for Ancient One's overt and covert protection and care, he would have been ruined by evil gods long ago. And Wanda's ability is even stronger than Strange, the so-called strongest sorcerer supreme in history. This makes Ancient One unavoidably worried. Magicians are exposed to forces that ordinary people cannot see, and because of this, they are more likely to be seduced by those forces. When you gaze into the abyss also gazes into you. When magicians grab the magic power of different dimensions, they will inevitably be noticed by the evil gods and demons in those time and space. Being seduced by Wang Hao is nothing in comparison. Hey, you said it yourself, what happens later is none of my business. Wang Hao teased with a rascal smile on his face, causing another turmoil in Ancient One's calm state of mind, and couldn't help but give him a blank look. It's as if you will be spared if you were here. After finishing speaking, Ancient One called Wanda in. Wanda, who had just finished exercising, had a blushing complexion, fine beads of sweat on her forehead, and a girlish and healthy glow all over her body. Advertisement, Master. After spit out two not-so-standard words, Wanda bowed to Ancient One, and then, Biff, looked up at Ancient One and Wang Hao. Wanda, start practicing with the Sun God from today on. Wanda was shocked by Ancient One's words. Although Sokovia has returned to the past because of Janata's departure, Wanda has long regarded Ancient One as a relative and truly regarded her as her master. But now, Ancient One wants to let her go. Immediately, Wanda's eyes were filled with mist and turned red, and she even turned her head to stare fiercely at Wang Hao. She thinks that Wang Hao asked Ancient One to do so. You man, if you don't speak clearly, you act like I'm a big villain. After waving his hand, a gust of warm air blew away, taking away the sweat and dirt from Wanda's body, and then Wang Hao stretched out his hand to wipe away the teardrops from the corners of her eyes. And only then did Ancient One explain. Wanda, don't get me wrong, he just asked you to practice with him. The door of Kamar Taj is still open to you. The relationship is complicated, you just need to know that it's for your own good. Knowing that she was not expelled from the school, Wanda's mood improved a lot, and her gaze at Wang Hao changed back to the original one. Then there was a reminiscence between the master and the apprentice. Although Ancient One is hundreds of years old and has sent off many apprentices and friends, this is Kamar Taj, and she is the most honorable and noble sorcerer supreme. It is serious and careful. Wanda, a 17-year-old girl, came here, but her mood became much more active. Definitely, it may also be caused by some unscrupulous sun god using some means to tease. It took an afternoon to reminisce, but Wang Hao had nothing to do, he just played in Kamar Taj for a day, and after they finished talking, he left with Wanda who packed up his things. Can I go home first? Advertisement. After coming down from the snow mountain, Wanda looked at the familiar modern street and said suddenly. Wang Hao naturally had no objection to this, and took her hand and appeared directly at Wanda's home in Sokovia. Wanda. A teenager's voice sounded, and a young boy ran over with surprise when he saw the two people who suddenly appeared. Pietro. Wanda was also happy to see her brother, the first time she had been away from him for so long. Who is he? Your boyfriend. Then Pietro's eyes turned to Wang Hao. He is not surprised by the way the two suddenly appeared, because the last time Ancient One took Wanda away and disappeared suddenly like this, during which Wanda learned to draw circles for the first time and came back once. So Pietro automatically classified this situation into the category of magic. As for what he said, Wanda blushed immediately after hearing what he said, and looked back secretly, only to find that Wang Hao didn't explain, and she was even more ashamed while secretly delighted. Wang Hao has opened up his special charm since the first time he saw her, and Xiao Nizi's heart has long been fallen. And Wang Hao looked at Pietro in front of him with a smile, feeling that the young man could speak. If that's the case, give him some luck. Scarlet Witch has it all, how can Quicksilver not have it? Moreover, the world he plans to go to this time happens to have an ability that is especially suitable for him, and it doesn't count as being a treat to my brother-in-law if I say it. So, when Wang Hao returned to the Watchman base, there were two more people beside him. Tony Stark. The two siblings suddenly yelled loudly when they saw a guy with his head buried in front of the table. Chapter 165 Targeting, DC Universe. What? Who's calling me? Tony, who was still busy perfecting his sentry armor, looked up, only to see two men and women the size of high school students staring at him. Who are you two? Do I know you? Wait, don't tell me you were my mistake in the flower field 18 years ago. Tony, who was learning Chinese recently, listened to a lot of Chinese songs and suddenly said something casually. You bloody B*********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** did not ease the atmosphere. Pietro ran to Tony angrily, but he couldn't shake his fist because of the rage in his heart. After all, this hatred was only imposed on Tony, on Stark Industries, and he was not the kind of person who would kill for hatred. But after listening to his words, Tony took a careful look at him. Listen, boy, I have long since stopped being an arms dealer. I am now an energy dealer, the kind that changes the world. There is no right or wrong weapon. I am sorry for your loss. I cannot change the past, but I believe in the sun. I will create a better future. It sounded like a sophistry, but Tony's sincere tone made the anger on Pietro's face gradually fade away. Sokovia was in civil strife until the world turned upside down, before Tony was Iron Man. That's when Wanda and Pietro's parents were killed by Stark Industries weapons, and even the two of them were almost killed by a Stark Industries missile. But like Tony said, he makes weapons, but he doesn't decide who uses them and who uses them. There is no right or wrong with weapons, only those who wield them. And, as Tony said, he's always working to create a better future. And this is the best way to deal with the past. That's right, who taught you? Patting Pietro on the shoulder, Wang Hao looked at Tony's face and joked. Advertisement, I often attend our church's gatherings, and I usually serve as the keynote speaker. After all, even your archbishop doesn't have as many opportunities as me to meet you. Tony said that he is a devout Christian, and this shamelessness and cheekiness are naturally related to the sun theology he believes in. I'll call Luo Cheng right now and ask him to expel you from the church. Wang Hao smiled coldly, wanting to disgust him. There is no such thing as an old on Myoji. If he could be disgusted by this novice guy, then he would be in vain. And teacher Tony, who was lower, took a deep look at Wang Hao, and then returned to his seat with an unhappy expression on his face. Although the knot has not been completely untied, but it is finally said, the rest is only a matter of time. The Wanda siblings waited in the base, while Wang Hao went to arrest them. No way, if Wang Hao didn't take those guys with him, they might cut the earth into 8 pieces and eat them with soy sauce and vinegar if they were crazy hungry. Packing 3 roast ducks in a world-renowned roast duck restaurant, and then carrying 2 foodies, 1 big and 1 small, plus a little moon watching them, Wang Hao's family is considered complete. I'm going. Why are you here again? But when Wang Hao returned to the base, he found several familiar figures appeared here again. Teacher Tony? Don't ask me, I don't know anything. Tony, who was fiddling with a large piece of ulu metal on the table, had his head cocked, indicating that some scruffy bearded guy in pajamas, flip-flops, and sunglasses must not have come here because of his tipster. I just want to see the trendy brands and new underwear in that world. I heard that you like the Black Hollow style? Ask for flowers, Natasha Romanoff whispered in Wang Hao's ear. Well, this reason can also be accepted, advertisement. But Wang Hao looked at a weak chicken who was wiping the bow and arrow in his hand again. Do you know who Green Arrow is? Wang Hao narrowed his eyes, suddenly laughed, and nodded at him. You can join now. Green Arrow versus Hawkeye, this is the big show of the year, better than Iron Man versus Batman or something. After all, although many people in the Avengers Alliance and Junglian correspond to each other, the only ones who are completely consistent in terms of skills and strength are Green Arrow and Hawkeye. 0 for other people, they are actually not the same at all. For example, Tony and Bruce Wayne are only similar in economic strength. But the fighting methods of the two are very different. In fact, Tony should be compared with Cyborg. Master Wayne should fight with the Captain. Both are representatives of the pinnacle of human beings, proficient in various fighting techniques, and both are commanders in the team. Just like the cooperation between Marvel and DC, the Avengers Alliance fights Junglian, that is, Thor fights the Superstar, the Master fights the Captain, and then Wonder Woman fights Captain Marvel. Green Arrow versus Hawkeye, interesting, but where did you hear the name Green Arrow? That red tights pervert. In this way, a new team was formed again, but this time there was 1 less captain, but 2 more siblings and 2 foodies. As for the goal, Wang Hao is also determined, even if Hawkeye doesn't say it, he actually wants to go to that world. And now that Hawkeye has spoken, the target of the search can be determined a little more. Hey Ocean, lock the world, target DC Universe, number. Whatever, the one closest to the current era, don't make me the 70s, the guy in the cloak is still wearing underwear, hot eyes. Just that's it for. Chapter 166 You Can't Beat Him. Boom. The simple and honest Gotham City is covered with clouds as usual, but today it seems to be raining heavily, and the rumbling thunder makes many people who are busy outside can't help speeding up their actions, wanting to go home early. Gotham City Police Station, on the roof, a huge amounts of searchlight is placed here, and a strange bat-like patch is placed in the middle to block the light so that it can form a unique pattern when projected out. Suddenly, an unusual airflow appeared on the roof, a transparent space vortex slowly formed, a gap opened, and several figures appeared here through the gap. Hey, it's pitch black, why can't you see anything? The gloomy sky made the night come much earlier. Looking at the time, it was clearly not until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. 3:40. This city has always been like this, with a unique climate, very similar to that of London. There are 365 days in a year, and the sun cannot be seen for 360 days. Looking at the thick dark clouds in the sky, Wang Hao suddenly frowned. It's not okay to not see the sun. Psychologists have long conducted research to prove that people's psychology tends to be darker and negative energy will gradually accumulate. That's why this city is so simple and honest. Even without deliberately listening, Wang Hao can still hear the grief, the neighing, and the screaming everywhere in the city. This crime rate is really the folk customs of Gotham City. Scatter. With his eyes wide open, Wang Hao looked towards the sky, and the thick dark clouds shattered under a powerful and inexplicable force. The torrential rain poured down, the thunder was loud, and the evil power accumulated for countless years dissipated under the power of the sun god, leaving only pure water vapor. And as the torrential rain fell, the dark clouds lifted little by little, and then, the evening sun slanted into every corner of the city. The rainbow hangs in the sky, the warm sunlight is projected into the windows of every household, and a kind of shade that has been deposited for a long time gradually dissipates. Beep 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 beep. In a cave where no sunlight can be seen, the special protection system monitoring the city began to emit intense sirens. Advertisement, Alfred, what's the matter? A middle-aged man in his 40s walked over quickly. His strong and sturdy body makes him look mighty and extraordinary, and the sharpness and lightness of his movements show that he has been trained for a long time and is extremely flexible. The wisdom and perseverance between the eyebrows are also somewhat inconsistent with the rumored playboy image from the outside world. And looking at the various furnishings in the cave, if it is a resident of Gotham City, it will immediately scream out. Batman. Master Wayne, it's strange. The system detected a strong energy fluctuation. The source seems to be the police station, but our satellite didn't find any special magnetic field. What is the goal of the energy? What are the consequences? Bruce Wayne sat in his seat and began to adjust the data, while beside him, an old British man with white beard and hair meticulously checked the screen in front of him. That's what's weird about me. Alfred passed the data to the screen in front of Bruce. It's aimed at the sky, and it turns out, sir, the sun is out in Gotham. There was a smile on Afu's face. The last time he saw the sun in Gotham City was when he was young. At that time, the Gotham City government purchased a large number of shells with the help of Wayne Enterprises, trying to smash the dark clouds in the sky and return the citizens to a bright and clear sky. It's a pity that the shattering was shattering, but within a few days, the layers of dense clouds gathered again contrary to scientific theory. Son? Hearing Afu's answer, Bruce was a little dazed. He turned on a news channel, which was supposed to be an evening news program, and now it was broadcasting a reporter standing on the street of the port, and in the camera was the sun that had not yet set in the sky. It's beautiful, isn't it? Advertisement Ah Fu was amazed by the beauty of the sunset. Bruce called up a video from the top of the building, just before the violent energy fluctuation occurred. They're dealing with the Joker, the Penguin, the Scarecrow psychos, not a megalopolis that can easily destroy a million people, God. Bruce Wayne, who is suspicious by nature, doesn't even trust his comrades who fought side by side. He has to create special files to target their weaknesses and formulate combat plans. AFU was a little surprised to see Bruce's skillful operation. The Gotham Police Department is their old buddy Gordon's territory. I didn't know you monitored the Gotham Police Department. But Bruce frowned after a nod of approval. With just a blink of his eyes, he possesses such terrifying power. This kind of person is not comparable to those criminals in Gotham City. Just relying on the eyes can burst out the energy equivalent to several mushroom bombs. Phew, we are in trouble. We need to re-examine. Such a strong energy fluctuation cannot be just to disperse the dark clouds. The data in the instrument shows that this energy is no less than several mushroom bombs. If it falls in Gotham City, the consequences will be disastrous. That's not the point. The point is this. Ah Fu looked at Bruce, who was frowning tightly, and didn't agree with his statement, and even sang the opposite tune. At the moment, he didn't believe that such a good thing would appear out of thin air and the haze in the sky of Gotham City would be swept away. But Bruce still didn't trust them, and even secretly monitored the police station. He definitely didn't think Wong Hao was a threat, it was just that he didn't want Bruce to get involved. That is the space energy gap, the representation of Einstein-Rosen bridge. There are 10 people in total, and our protagonist is this person. Call out the satellite image, call up the surveillance video of the Gotham police station. In the picture, Wong Hao looked at the sky, a ray of light in his eyes rushed towards the sky, the picture fluctuated for a while, and after this scene, all 10 people suddenly disappeared. Master Wayne, I don't think we need to be so pessimistic. He just made Gotham City rain and removed the haze, didn't he? Chapter 167 He is the most powerful playboy. Gotham City, New York City seems to have had this nickname before, and this geographical location corresponds to New York City. After leaving the roof of the police station, Wong Hao and his group did not disband on the spot like they did on Earth X this time. The last time they disbanded in place was mainly because they were sprayed by people as soon as they appeared, which made them curious about mutant. But in this world, they didn't have that kind of situation. It also gave them time to sit quietly and discuss. In a cafe that was about to enter the night business hours, 10 people almost surrounded the space inside, but the few people with different images did not cause any disturbance. Because Wong Hao was too lazy to care about any accidents, he directly asked Wanda to cast a small spell to block their presence. Strange, there are more than 18. It should be that the combination of these two cities corresponds to our New York. More information was obtained, and the projection screen in Tony's palm displayed another city across the river from Gotham City. The name, Metropolis. There was a strange look in Tony's eyes. What kind of city would name itself Metropolis? It fits the description well, though. After casually searching the economic indicators and various people's livelihood data of the metropolis, Tony was surprised to find that the metropolis is more like their New York City in terms of economic development. There are actually two cities on the East Coast that are comparable in size to New York. The key is that they are on both sides of a river. Although there is no difference in the shape of the entire North America, the geographical environment of many details is different. For example, the Hudson River runs across New York, and in this world, a larger river takes the place of the Hudson River, separating Metropolis from Gotham City. Advertisement, hey, look, it's you. Hawkeye at the side suddenly pointed to a certain figure on the screen. Inheriting the family business, worth billions, a famous playboy, but he is much more pleasing to the eye than you. Tony narrowed his eyes, then curled his lips. It's just a useless playboy. Have you forgotten that we can appear here now as the result of my research? Tony has a lot of disdain for the man on screen named Bruce Wayne, who is an entrepreneur, inventor, and superhero. Playboy? That was just a side job. He still has many titles? However, Wong Hao, who also saw Bruce, clicked on more news and then checked. Why, you are also interested in him, think he is more powerful than me. Wong Hao's strange behavior made Tony and others a little puzzled. After all, the person who can make Wong Hao notice may really be a bit extraordinary. In terms of technological invention, you are better than him, and in all other aspects, he beats you. Wong Hao said softly. The photos on the screen are from a few years ago, when Bruce Wayne rarely appeared in public view. And the stubbled, decadent and vicissitudes of the face on the screen all showed that this Bruce was young. Hey, even though you are the boss, you can't belittle me like this. Tell me, how is he better than me? Advertisement Tony looked like a jealous man questioning his cheating wife. Although others like to make jokes about Tony, they actually know that Tony's ability is already the top among human beings. Even Thor admits in his heart that Tony is a comrade worthy of his respect. And now Wong Hao actually said that this Bruce Wayne beat Tony in all aspects except in the field of scientific research, which made them feel a little unbelievable. He is proficient in 127 fighting techniques and he is also a weapon expert, proficient in all kinds of hidden weapons and cold weapons in the world. His physical fitness has been undergoing rigorous training in scientific management since he was 11 years old, so that he can even compete with previous captains against each other. Wong Hao paused, then continued. He's a master detective, a master tactician, a master of language, he's fluent in over 20 languages, he's an expert in interrogation, a master in disguise, a master in tracking, he's also an expert in stealth, an expert in sniping. No doubt, Natasha Romanoff, he is definitely better than you as an agent. Impossible, what you said is not a human being, that is a monster. Before Wang Hao could finish speaking, Hawkeye shook his head first. He was already considered to be in existence with extraordinary abilities among human beings. Normal people's bow and arrow skills can't be trained to his level, this is not something that can be achieved through hard work. Because of this, he understands how difficult it is to master so many skills and master them. People's energy is limited, and their ability is also limited. If the ability is not enough, no matter how hard you try, it will be useless. In fact, not only Hawkeye, but also Tony and Natasha Romanoff, including the Wanda siblings, did not quite believe what Wang Hao said. Actually, I haven't finished. Although his achievement in the field of scientific research is not as good as yours, it's just that he didn't focus on it. At the age of 26, he obtained at least a dozen different types of academic achievements for self-study. Degrees, ranging from biology and physical chemistry to forensic medicine and computer science. Wang Hao smiled like a self-proclaimed wall mural about the largest human wall mural in the history of comics. Superman claims to be the son of DC, and Master Wayne is the father of DC. This sentence is not for nothing. A certain Iron Man is said to be immortal equal to a god after snapping his fingers, but remember, that phrase was originally used to describe Bruce Wayne, Bateman. Chapter 168. The Playboy Showdown. Although I don't quite believe what Wang Hao said, after all, as a human being, this kind of experience is still too exaggerated. But who is Wang Hao? How could they not believe what he said? Well, I still don't believe it. How about it? Are you interested in trying him? Tony looked at the other people, eager to try. Bruce Wayne is so powerful, so it wouldn't be a big deal to come to them to test it out, right? And they will act with discretion, it's just a prank at best. Stark, you're jealous. Hawkeye pierced Tony's mind mercilessly. Yes, you are jealous that he is more handsome than you. Natasha Romanoff glanced at pictures of Bruce Wayne, compared them to her teammates, and came to a crucial conclusion. Hey, I'm the #1 man in the National Women's Most Wanted marriage list for 3 consecutive years. Tony knocked on the table, saying that no one would allow anyone to belittle his charm. That's because of your money. Hawkeye once again exposed the truth. Money is also a kind of charm, because money likes me. As long as I have money, it will always like me. Tony glared at Hawkeye, and said confidently, and this nonsense made Hawkeye and others have nothing to say, they could only roll their eyes and say that you were happy. How about it? Why don't you do it? Fighting master, super agent, proficient in various skills, then we will give him one by one. There was a certain evil smile on Tony's face, and Wang Hao didn't stop him seeing this, but was very happy to see that scene. Advertisement. Whether Tony stumbled, or Master Wayne was really messed up by Tony, the picture would be pretty good to think about. So he simply fanned the wind and lit a fire. Come on, it's opening, let's guess whether it's Tony Stark who proves that he's the strongest playboy, or Bruce Wayne who's going to give this B**************** D who offended him a lesson. Wang Hao's sudden behavior made everyone dumbfounded, but in the next second, except for Janata who didn't quite understand their behavior, everyone including Zhao Feng raised their little hands excitedly. I bet Bruce Wayne. Hawkeye was the first to raise his hand. Seeing Tony stare at him, Hawkeye spread his hands. Sorry, Stark, the sun god won't lie to us, he is stronger than you. I really want to support you, but I still think he is stronger. Next time I'll bet on Green Arrow. Tony took a deep breath, then responded. Now it was Hawkeye's turn to look dumbfounded. I crush Stark. Thor's thick voice sounded, and his arms were raised high. Thank you, Lebowski. You have always been the strongest watcher in my heart. Tony smiled, walked up to Thor and gave him a fist bump. Only Natasha Romanoff did not rush to place a bet, but stared at Wang Hao's face with a pair of beautiful eyes. We haven't said what the stakes are yet. Speaking of this, everyone suddenly realized that they had been high for a long time, but they still haven't said what the bet is. Then what do you want to bet on? Wang Hao said that everything is fine, and the right to choose is given to everyone, and he is the bookmaker at the opening, so this kind of thing must be said by the bettors. It's a rare opportunity. The next time we have to wait until Hawkeye vs. Green Arrow, so hurry up if you want something. Advertisement. Hearing this, everyone became even more excited, and the first to raise their hands was none other than contestant Tony. I can bet too. Definitely yes, but you can only pressure yourself, otherwise you deliberately lose to him. Wouldn't we all be cheated by you? Call. I thought of it, and I don't ask too much. You must wear a full set of our dark armor. HMPH, how could I do that kind of thing? Everyone looked at Tony in unison, as if they were watching a good show, whether this arrogant man would dare to accept the bet. Okay. Wang Hao stroked the non-existent beard on his chin, and then clapped his fists. Then what did you lose? What did you pay? Just wear it. It's better like this. If you lose, we will decide the color of your armor. No, if you just change to armor, wouldn't it be an advantage for you? Although Wang Hao doesn't care about their small price, the game is the game, and the rules are the rules. Sure enough, the megalomaniac was so excited, he immediately took the lead and expressed his challenge. 0. Well, I don't think I'm going to lose. Everyone booed in unison, expressing serious dissatisfaction with Tony's narcissism. Although they have long been familiar with this guy's thick skin, but being familiar with it and accepting it are two different things. I'm coming too. Well, I'll bet on Bruce Wayne. If I win, I want a set of armor of my own, or a super ability for me. Hawkeye looked at Wang Hao pitifully. He had traveled through time several times, but he was still playing with a broken bow, playing a pavilion. I want Haoshin's computing authority once, and my sentry armor is almost finished, so. There was a trace of pity on Tony's face, and then he said happily. A bet definitely can't just be a winning part, and you have to pay a price if you lose. Chapter 169. All parties bet. Okay, no problem. But if you lose, hey, I want you to wear this battlesuit for a month. With a wave of Wang Hao's palm, a set of Haoshin extracted from the battlesuit in his memory was projected. The tight purple style, plus the two weird little horns on the head, the whole battlesuit reveals a strange meaning. This is not something Wang Hao fabricated out of thin air, but in the comics, Hawkeye's battlesuit. It's as shameful as Wanda's uniform in the manga. Seeing the appearance of that battlesuit, Hawkeye's breathing stopped, and for a moment he wanted to say that if he was allowed to wear this battlesuit, he might as well let him die.
But after thinking about it, the long-awaited super ability is in front of him. Earth X, a place full of superpowers, failed to make him get what he wanted. Now the only chance may be Wang Hao himself.
Okay, I bet, Hawkeye said through gritted teeth. Kaylin Tay, you are a man. Tony gave a thumbs up. Hawkeye was not the only one who wanted to die in that kind of clothes, but Hawkeye was able to accept it. This courage was not as good as Tony Stark. 833 This is because he doesn't know what painting Wang Hao is going to give his armor. If he knew, he might choose to abstain on the spot. What about you? After Tony and Hawkeye finished speaking, Wang Hao looked at the others again. I bet on Stark, but I don't want anything, just a case of beer. If you lose, I'll change your hairstyle. Make a deal. Thor nodded to Wang Hao. Advertisement. Then Wang Hao looked at the Wanda siblings again. Are you going to participate? It was the first time to participate in this kind of group activity, and the siblings were somewhat different. Hearing Wang Hao's question, he shook his head and refused after hesitation. I want. Little Phoenix raised her hand and looked at Wang Hao excitedly. If I win, I will eat a lot of hot pot. Little Phoenix's pink tongue licked her lips, and the excitement and deliciousness of the hot pot made her miss it. Okay, but if you lose, how about you sleep well at night? Hearing these words, Little Phoenix immediately wrinkled his face, and his mouth also shrunk. In fact, she doesn't need to sleep, she just likes to hug Wang Hao and feel the warmth. Just one night, okay. The pitiful look of the little girl did not look like a big devil who could destroy the universe at all, which made Wang Hao feel distressed. But because of the little girl's clinginess, he hasn't done what adults should do with Channer and the others for several days. 5 days. 3 days. Make a deal. 3 days is 3 days, Wang Hao sighed, who let himself be this little devil. You haven't said who you're betting on. The bet is over, but who hasn't said the bet, which makes Tony couldn't help showing a trace of resentment on his face. Emotionally, he is just a tool man, and everyone doesn't care about his victory or defeat. Advertisement. Fortunately, he had been prepared for a long time, and a handful of candies suddenly appeared in his hand, which he asked for from the bar of the coffee shop just now. Sure enough, when Little Phoenix saw the candy in Tony's hand, her big gazillion eyes suddenly became like crescent moons. Well, then I'll bet on you. She has nothing lacking, because she knows that if she wants anything, Wang Hao will satisfy her, even if it is the whole world. Whether it is Tony or Bruce Wayne, they are the kind of people who refuse to bow their heads, expecting them to take the initiative to admit defeat. This may really spark a spark. First of all, because they participated in the end, they can't help you, and all your actions have to be handled by yourself. In addition, judging the outcome of both of you is a problem, and I will also participate in the betting, so it depends on the two of you and sees who will admit defeat first. If I win, I want you to do this and that, and if I lose, I want you to do this and that. The impure relationship between Natasha Romanoff and Wang Hao has long been hidden. I bet Bruce Wayne. And even those emperors have 3,000 beauties in the harem, so Wang Hao's countless stars are nothing. Definitely, even Channer didn't say anything. As outsiders, they naturally wouldn't feel that they could be beeping as messengers of justice. In fact, from their point of view, Wang Hao, as an ancient deity, has a much higher status than the ancient emperors. Wang Hao smiled mysteriously. As for Janata, she still doesn't know what a bet is. After Little Phoenix gave her a piece of candy, she just turned her ears off the window and tasted the delicious candy there. Even Tony, the ones who had a lot of fun before, didn't have anything to say about him except those who wanted to hype themselves. Now, there were 3 bettors for Tony, and only Wang Hao and Hawkeye were bettors for Bruce Wayne. At this point, the bet is settled, and the bet officially begins. Those who scolded him were just envious of him. As for the female fist, it was too late for the female fist to lick him, so how could they be willing to scold him? Wang Hao looked at Channer. Unexpectedly, Channer shook her head. It was the last remaining Natasha Romanoff who spoke, but she didn't say her bet directly, but leaned into Wang Hao's ear. Her seductive red lips parted slightly. Chapter 170. Meeting the abilities. The wind at night was a bit noisy, and a heavy rain during the day completely dissipated the dark clouds over Gotham City, and even the inexplicable power that had been lingering over Gotham City was also dispersed. Therefore, the dark clouds that were always able to gather again after so long have not shown signs of recovery, which made the citizens of Gotham City look at the brilliant starry sky for a long time. After the sunshine during the day, I saw the moonlight and the bright stars at night. Today's weather is really good. Master Wayne, I think we can go out and have a look. The starry night in Gotham City is rare. In the Batcave, looking at Bruce, who was still buried in the table studying Wang Hao and his party, Ah Fu sighed. His persuasion obviously didn't have any effect. After identifying the threat of Wang Hao, Bruce devoted all his energy to it. This made Ah Fu even more worried, but after getting along for so many years, Bruce was the one he watched and grew up with, and he knew the character of this man too well. Beep beep. The sharp alarm sounded again, and Bruce, who was buried in front of the table, changed his expression slightly, and immediately looked at the monitoring interface next to him. It's just that this time it's not Wang Hao who he thought made another move, but his Wayne group was invaded. What is this? In the picture, a strange humanoid creature is attached to the outer wall of the Wayne group building. Some kind of ray shot out of his palm and was cutting through the outer wall, trying to punch a hole for him to pass through. Because of this, he triggered the alarm system that Bruce had set up in the Wayne group. After all, most of his equipment and technical support still come from the R&D department within the Wayne group. Moreover, the existence of the Wayne group has provided him with a large amount of funds and official help for his actions, and he will not give up easily no matter what. Advertisement, notify Commissioner Gordon? Ah Fu immediately asked. But Bruce shook his head. I'm afraid it's too late, and the location where he cuts happens to be the Applied Science Department, and the weapons and equipment inside will cause huge amounts of losses if they go out. After finishing speaking, Bruce got up directly, and after a few steps, he came to the cabinet where the battlesuit was placed, and in the pool below the cave, a platform was slowly floating up. The black Batmobile has been warmed up and started, just waiting for its master to drive it out. Boom. The ejected tail flame pushed the black land beast out of the cave, and then turned into an invisible mode. Under the cover of the night, the black Batmobile blended into it, like a wisp of smoke flying on the street. Why don't you come? This reaction speed is too slow. On the outer wall of the Wayne building, a certain Iron Man who was cutting the wall couldn't help but complain. Looking at the alarm system wiring in the wall, Tony sighed. Let him do this kind of stealthy deeds with the dignified Iron Man. If it weren't for the purpose of attracting the very powerful Bruce Wayne, he would not be able to do such a low-level thing if he was killed. The screen inside the visor suddenly turned red, the alarm was activated, and then the automatic defense system of the armor was activated directly, driving Tony's figure clinging to the outer wall to avoid it. A sharp arrow pierced through the air, and the flying arrow carrying some kind of electromagnetic interference device directly pierced where Tony was just now. Looking in the direction of the flying arrow, under the moonlight, a black figure squatting on the corner of the building next to him was watching Tony. JARVIS, scan his battlesuit for me. As early as Xandar, Tony had already learned the microspace storage technology. Advertisement for him, the biggest advantage of this technology is that he can carry his large computer unit and smart housekeeper with him. Asking for flowers. In this way, he no longer has to worry about fighting in other places or being disconnected from the internet and unable to contact JARVIS. Sir, the main body of the battlesuit is Kevlar strengthening fiber, and the cape is made of a special carbon fiber material, which seems to harden when charged, acting as a hang glider. Just a hang glider? That doesn't look like it can fly. There was a slight smile on the corner of Tony's mouth, facing an opponent who couldn't fly, then his advantage was too great. After all, the steel battle armor was first produced for air combat, and the strategic significance brought about by its initial appearance is also because of its crushing air combat ability against traditional flight weapons. Basically, once you have it, you will have air supremacy, but ground firepower and offense and defense are not so important. As a result, Tony immediately flew into the air, and while leaving the wall, came to the top of Birdman's head, looking down at him. The palm cannon began to gather energy. Although the battle armor that has been upgraded several times is now loaded with too many weapons, this time is just a test after all, and Tony will not make a deadly move. Otherwise, with the technological reserves he currently possesses, given him a certain amount of time, one person can form an army, and one person can fight against a big country. Beep. The sharp siren sounded crazily in Bruce's ears. Although the helmet of the Bat battlesuit didn't look as advanced as the steel armor, there were quite a few things it should have. All kinds of scanning and auxiliary combat systems are available. While Bruce was shocked by the high energy reaction in front of him, he quickly made an evasive strategy. Wow! With the spread of the wings, the special cloth was instantly charged and straightened, and then pulled back under the drive of the night wind. The palm cannon immediately hit the empty space. And this is just the first trial of both sides, Chapter 171 Banknote Ability versus Banknote Ability. That's a set of individual exoskeleton armor, a dull voice sounded on the communication channel. In the Batcave, Ah Fu looked at the scene in front of him, his hands were fast, and he quickly analyzed the opponent's equipment information. Yes, Master Wayne, and the technology content is quite high. The individual battle armor mastered by the Wayne group is not as good as this set. To deal with different enemies, Bruce has a variety of supporting equipment. He also has individual exoskeleton armor, and the technical content is not low. Except for the lack of arc reactor technology, Bruce basically has no shortage of other supporting technologies. Alfred, I need a Batfighter. He can 043 fight in the air, and his helmet must have an infrared scanning function, which means that my conventional cover methods will be useless. Bruce used the rope gun to swing between the buildings, avoiding Tony's pursuit, while communicating with Ah Fu. It's not like he hasn't encountered high-tech opponents before, and Frozen Man is one of them. However, in terms of technological level, the Wayne group can indeed dominate the world. This is the power of money, it is the calendar. But the problem is, now he met another money ability player, and for the first time, he found that his skills were crushed. In fact, if it was a few years later, when Bruce got the mother box and got acquainted with Cyborg, Bruce's technical reserves would advance by leaps and bounds. Just like when Tony started to touch alien technology. But for now, the skills of the two are not on the same level. When Bruce applied for top up, Wani also found something wrong. He's stalling, JARVIS, get me a signal, plug in, I want to see where his backup is. Advertisement. Long before the shot, Tony had learned about the details of the Wayne Group. Since Bruce is a money ability player like him, no matter how good and outstanding his personal ability is, this gold mine with a market value of hundreds of billions is definitely his huge reliance. Sure enough, when Tony searched and researched, he found that there were huge amounts of loopholes and vacancies in Wayne Group's funds. Although Tony is a hands-off shopkeeper, the period when Stark Group developed most rapidly was when he was in charge. In terms of group management ability, he is not bad at all, so he easily discovered the internal problems of Wayne Group. In turn, he found out about the applied technology department of the Wayne Group. The real place that swallowed countless gold and built countless high-tech equipment for Bruce Wayne, Batman. But that couldn't have been done by Bruce alone. Even Tony's armor looks like he designed it himself, but is that possible? The weapons on the battle armor were directly modified by him from ready-made or weapons designed by others. The new technology of the armor is obtained from the new scientific research discoveries in the world. For example, nanotechnology comes from that Dr. Helen Zhao, neural sensing technology also comes from other scientists, and so on. He just made them part of his armor. He is a genius, but not a god. He has several doctorates, but there are more than 10,000 kinds of modern science. Because of this, Tony knew well that Bruce Wayne must have technical backup and team support behind him. In addition to technical support, there is also intelligence support. Information capture, target locking, advertisement. The technology that is several levels higher has allowed Tony to complete the technical crush. JARVIS, cut off the communication between them. Under Afu's remote control, tracer bullets and jammers were launched, forcing Tony's attack back and giving Bruce time to enter the fighter plane. But under the high-tech scanning, no matter how Bruce moved, 0.3 could not escape Tony's eyes. Afu said with a smile, and handed over the control of the fighter. And with the sound of rapidly passing the night sky, from a distance, a flat fighter plane also painted in black quickly entered the battlefield. Although in the night, the black painting combined with various vision shading techniques learned from the Shadow Warrior Alliance makes Batman seem like a ghost to ordinary people. Sir, a fighter plane has already taken off and is coming here. Do you need me to intercept or hijack its signal? Okay, the fight is on the same level. Tony's eyes lit up immediately, and then he said with a smile. After all, he is already playing with the cosmic technology from Xandar, just like Cyborg is using the Motherbox technology. After activation, the network protection on the entire Earth seems to him to be non-existent. Hijack me, but don't reveal it. Wait for my signal before controlling it. By the way, don't cut off the communication immediately, wait a while. The signal of the Batcave was directly invaded. Tony was suspended in midair, looking at everything in the Batcave. His face was full of joy. Oh, look what I found. I'm actually under him. I'm a little confident. And that means, Tony can discover his lair. But Tony is now purely holding the mentality of playing cat and mouse, and it was only for gambling, so he just pressed Bruce, but he didn't really fight hard. In the night sky, flashing light cannons bursting out of the sky appear frequently like stars, and black figures swing back and forth between the buildings. Chapter 172, Young Life, Bruce Wayne Wants to Kill. Under the night sky, a black fighter plane looks like a bat galloping at the low altitude of the city, and behind the fighter plane, a golden and red humanoid metal creature is chasing its prey. Boom! A missile exploded on the left wing of the fighter plane, causing the fighter plane to shake, and it took a few seconds before it regained its balance. Afu, he is more flexible than me in the city. Do you have any good suggestions? Although boarded a fighter plane, the situation of Bruce being pursued has not changed. It's just that compared to the swinging around before, the range and space he can move about now is more limited. Because after getting on the fighter plane, he quickly discovered the biggest advantage of the Bat fighter, the ability to fight at low altitudes in cities, and the ability to crush helicopters and various small fighter jets in terms of flexibility, which was completely blown away by Tony's steel armor. Master Wayne, I suggest you find an open place with relatively undulating terrain to deal with it, so that we may be able to take advantage of our stronger firepower. Afu's point of view is basically the same as Bruce's. The flexible armor means small, and small means insufficient firepower. This is common to any tech weapon. Although Tony's armor has displayed energy weapons since its appearance, the two of Bruce still don't think it can be folded after pressing. Even if it is an energy weapon, its energy supply core cannot provide too high energy output under this volume. This is not some fantasy theory, this is a very simple mass energy conservation. Definitely, they didn't know that Tony had mastered space compression. Although the compressed space carried by the core of the armor is less than 1,000 cubic meters, the supercomputer and energy core carried are much, much larger than before. Definitely, for now, Tony doesn't need to use these skills. He wants to prove that he is better than this guy, not that his skills are better. Advertisement. In fact, the conversation between Bruce and Afu has been monitored by Tony. This is not the crushing of alien technology, but the crushing of the technology mastered by Bruce by Tony, the artificial intelligence field. Empty place. It's just what I want. Bruce and Alfred finalized the battle plan, and then Bruce immediately turned around and flew towards the edge of Gotham City. There is an abandoned port, no one has lived for a long time. The terrain there is absolutely open, not to mention two people fighting. Even two armies fighting here is more than enough. The key point is that because it is a port and there are many factories, the terrain here is actually not simple, but quite complicated, which gives Bruce, who is familiar with the terrain, room to operate. The black bat fighter is in front, and the gold and red armor is behind. The big local tyrants from two different worlds soon came to their battlefield. Ready to F*K the real guy. On the other side of the ocean, in a certain hot pot restaurant, Wang Hao had reserved the room and broadcast the live situation, and the rest of the people sat together, watching the battle while eating heartwarming hot pot. As for why I came here, it is definitely because a certain foodie can't help it. Shoot tracer rounds and interfere with his line of sight. Inside the fighter plane, Bruce pressed the button, and special missiles flew out from the tail of the fighter plane, making strong flashes and piercing whistles in the night sky. This is the most useful device for jammers or other flight targets. Sure enough, Tony's pursuit was blocked, giving Bruce a space to counterattack. Advertisement: the sprayed bullets were more dense than raindrops and shot towards Tony. The power and practicality of the six-barreled airborne Vulcan cannon are so popular no matter which world. Oh, it was not Tony who exclaimed, but Wang Hao. Holding a piece of fat lamb roll with chopsticks in one hand, he looked at the batfighter jetting out metal flames on the screen in a little shock, and a big hello popped up in his mind. You have a long life, the master is going to kill you. Ah! Xiao Feng Wang stood up from the stool and bit down the uneaten fat lamb roll that Wang Hao was carrying. If you don't eat it, the meat will be cold. For Little Phoenix, this is much more important than Bruce Wayne's 370 kills. But for someone like Wang Hao who knows something, Bruce Wayne is going to kill someone, it's the end of the world. Although Master Wayne has maimed countless Gotham citizens over the years, killing people is still his taboo. Hey Ocean, check the data and information in the Batcave for me. We won't come to the Dark Universe, will we? The Dark Universe is a big event that DC is still going on before Wang Hao travels, and the first half is a dark metal event. It tells the story of the evil god Barbados collecting the 7 Batman in the Dark Universe corresponding to the main universe and then leading the Dark Army to invade #universe. The most famous of these is the Laughing Bat. After killing Joker with his own hands, Bruce Wayne was infected with the Joker virus, and then turned into a laughing bat, killing the Bat family, leaving only Dalian who was voluntarily infected with the Joker virus, and they killed Junglian together, and then the whole world. If it's a dark universe, then maybe it's going to be annihilated forever. Chapter 173: Who says Batman doesn't kill? The dark universe isn't scary, but it's disgusting. Wang Hao once looked up the birth of the Laughing Bat, and also learned about the setting of the dark universe. The dark universe exists as the opposite of the main universe, like the positive and negative sides of a coin. And the reason why it is called a dark universe is not because of its people, but because of problems in the whole world. Different from the main universe, which is dominated by positive energy, the dark universe is dominated by negative energy, which will guide the direction of the entire world in the dark. This means that no matter how hard others try, the direction of the group will always be towards the worst. For example, Bruce killed Joker, was infected by Joker, and then slaughtered the whole world. In the main universe, maybe Bruce would rather be killed by Joker than choose to kill Joker, or he could think of other solutions before he got to this point. Once it is confirmed that it is a dark universe, it means that this world will inevitably be destroyed and become a dead star. It sounds really bleak. Taking Little Phoenix off his chopsticks, Wang Hao thought while watching the battle on the screen. It's not that he can't save it, but that it's unnecessary. This is the operation law of the DC universe. Even if he saves this world, there may be another main universe that will be transformed into a dark universe correspondingly. As a god of the universe, it is very important to recognize the laws of the development of things and respect the laws. Although his power is strong enough to change everything, he was originally the one who created the rules. When he appears here, the fixed star of the entire universe shines because of him, and the light of the entire universe shines because of him. Advertisement: so why would he want to break other laws? Enquiry is over. After analysis, the possibility that this world is not a dark universe is 80%. A new piece of mutton has just been boiled, and Haoshin's inquiry is over. With a shaking of his wrist, he stuffed the piece of meat into his mouth in an instant, then smiled at the little phoenix next to him who was staring at his chopsticks even though his mouth was full of meat. Wang Hao opened the inquiry report, then nodded. According to the query report, combined with the information in Wang Hao's memory, this universe is still closer to the combination of the version of the Green Arrow universe. As for why Bruce Wayne's Batfighter is loaded with live ammunition instead of blanks, it also looks like he is going to kill you to Tony. Young Master is gone like that. According to the memory data, the image of Bruce Wayne in the movie Junglian universe, with a square face, extremely strong, and half white hair, is because this version uses Bruce Wayne from the time when the Dark Knight returns. Haoshin analyzed it to Wang Hao. Bruce in this period is falling into a period of confusion in his life because of various factors such as Robin's death and his disappointment with Gotham. Therefore, in this period, he not only started killing, but even killed a lot of people. Afterwards, Haoshin showed Wang Hao several clips hidden in his memory, including comics, movies and animations. In the movie part, the square-faced Bruce came to the warehouse to rescue Martha after telling him that Nima is also called Martha, and his moves against the group of Luthor's men were basically fatal. There is no room left. The 6-barreled Vulcan cannon fired non-stop, forcing Tony to move, while various missiles were constantly thrown out, exploding into pieces in the night sky. On the other hand, Tony is not to be outdone. Advertisement. Alfred, are you ready? The investigation didn't take long and the conversations between Wang Hao and Haoshin were all through spirit. So on the screen, the battle between the two bankers is still going on, and it is evolving in a more intense direction. Micro-missiles flew out of the armor to bombard the Batfighter, while the palm cannon and other energy cannons didn't stop. They kept shooting, Wong Wangs, towards Bruce Wayne. Tony is just going to test and challenge, and his methods will be restrained, but if Bruce Wayne wants to make trouble and play for real, it is really uncertain whether he will come up with some black technology. But Tony didn't want to expose his whole cards like this, or let the game end. So it looks like he is in a mess, but in fact he is still able to do a job with ease. That's good, otherwise, if it's really Black and Bruce, if Tony is not careful, his life will be in jeopardy. The open terrain is indeed more beneficial to the Batfighter. Without the shelter of the building, although the steel armor is still flexible, it can be aimed at any rate. But the power of Tony's armor is far more than that. But in fact, from the perspective of Wong Hao and others, Tony is much calmer. But Bruce doesn't seem to know this. While the artillery is flying, his action intention is also very obvious. He wants to suppress Tony's movement space through this kind of firebombing. In fact, only in this period can he be so extreme and go to the irreversible opposition with Superman. This is not a question of technology leadership. Technology leaders can't help but have a different mentality. Although I have been avoiding missiles, I have been moving non-stop. Open the protective cover, and under the condition of sufficient energy, this bombardment is not a problem at all. Chapter 174. Don't pretend. I know it's you. Alfred installed a special weapon on it when he summoned the Batfighter. Electromagnetic pulse weapons. Although it is said that there are very few high-tech criminals in Gotham City, after all, Wayne Group's technology is already the top in Gotham City and even the world. But for decades, Bruce and Alfred have always encountered similar opponents. Therefore, the electromagnetic pulse weapon, which can be called a magic weapon against the enemies of the precision electronic system, will naturally not be lacking. It's just that this thing is huge and troublesome to carry, so it can only be installed temporarily. At this moment, the Batfighter carries this thing. It's ready and fully charged, but Master Wayne, you have to pay attention. Once you use it, the Batfighter will also be affected, and it will take at least 5 minutes to restart. Naturally, the Batfighter is also equipped with various sophisticated electronic equipment, so once the electromagnetic pulse weapon is used, it will definitely hurt the enemy by 1000 and self-damage by 800. It's just that Bruce is confident that even without the 960 fighter, he is still a skilled fighter, which is enough to subdue this guy in the exoskeleton armor. In particular, exoskeleton armor is generally heavy and clumsy. If it is not driven by energy, it is impossible to act with the strength of the driver inside. This thing is much heavier than the plate armor worn by knights in the Middle Ages, and that thing, just a piece of breastplate, weighs dozens of kilograms, and it takes several people to assist to put it on. So Bruce is very clear that once the electromagnetic pulse spreads, this seemingly flexible and powerful armor will directly become an iron coffin for the people inside. With a deep dive, the Batfighter flew up from the bottom, and the steel armor was suppressed with full firepower. Then, with the scuffle between the fighter plane and the battle frame, the two of them directly approached the ground. Whether it is a steel battle frame or a Batfighter, they are both very suitable for fighting in low altitude and complex terrain, bidda. Although the terrain became a lot more complicated when it was close to the ground, and there were many factories, but the two flight objects moved around without being hindered in the slightest. Advertisement. The last wave of jamming shells, attacking to his right side. A batch of missiles flashing red were launched, and then the Batfighter rolled and blocked Tony's left side. There was an explosion, and the dazzling flash and shock made Tony's armor tremble in the air. It's now. The electric current poured in, and the electromagnetic pulse wave spread suddenly around the Batfighter. In an instant, Bruce lost communication with Alfred, and all electronic circuits in the Batfighter failed. The engine shut down and the Batfighter began to fall. But Bruce didn't panic. He pulled the buckle, opened the driver's seat. Bruce jumped up, spread his wings, gliding in the night sky, and flew towards Tony, who fell straight down there. Clang. There was a heavy landing sound, and the hard steel armor fell to the ground. All the original luminous parts of the body were dimmed at this moment, including the pair of eyes with both scanning and cameras. Let me see who you really are. Standing on Tony's body, Bruce stretched out his hand, intending to take off Tony's mask. Okay. Suddenly, a kind of intuition that has been trained for a long time and honed on the edge of life and death suddenly appeared, making Bruce jump up and hide directly as if a certain string in his body was touched. Then, in his surprised eyes, Tony, who was supposed to be lying on the ground, suddenly stood up, and the suit of armor that had become bleak also returned to normal. Originally, that arm was intended to catch him. Advertisement. But although he escaped the capture, Bruce still couldn't escape. Hey, I was going to play for a while, but I didn't expect you to do this directly. The mask opened, and Tony's cynical face appeared in front of Bruce's eyes. Bruce Wayne, stop pretending, I know it's you. With a wave of Tony's arm, the nano-armor immediately began to expand, and a series of ion cannons stretched out from behind, aiming at Bruce, telling him that the reality is that there is no way out. Who are you? Although he was called to reveal his identity, even though he was aimed at by a weapon so powerful that he couldn't get out of the attack range, Bruce didn't seem to panic. He had already recognized that Tony was one of those people who had been on the roof of the Gotham police station. My name is Tony Stark. Seeing that Bruce didn't try to escape or resist, Tony opened his mouth and walked slowly towards him. Hey, doesn't that count as my win? He didn't fight ability anymore. Tony knew that Wong Hao could see his situation at the moment, and in his opinion, Bruce would definitely not be able to make a comeback in this situation, so he directly planned to declare his victory. He hasn't thrown in the towel yet. Wang Hao's voice suddenly rang in the ears of Bruce and Tony, which surprised Bruce and made Tony jump a little. You are making too much sense, and he can't even resist, so why don't you count me as the winner? However, Wang Hao, who saw the small movements in Bruce's palm through the screen, smiled slightly. Say this to me when you can come back. Chapter 175 Tony Stark captured. Why can't I go back? I'm clearly in control of the situation. Oh, I'm so dizzy. Pat, Tony's eyes went dark and he fell to the ground. In Bruce's hand, he put away a special pill emitting a colorless and odorless gas. It's just that although Tony was overwhelmed, Bruce was not happy. On the contrary, his brows frowned even tighter, only because he realized that all his actions were actually being watched by others. There was a pair of eyes staring at him all the time, which shocked him and made him panic at the same time. Could it be that person? Bruce thought of the scene where Wang Hao stared at the roof of the police station and let the dark clouds clear. Looking down at his feet again, Tony, who was stunned by his props, was lying on the ground, but the nano armor on his body was not untied. On the contrary, under the control of JARVIS, Tony, who lost consciousness, was directly protected by the armor, and even the mask that was opened because of Tony's arrogant mentality was also closed. But the good news is that Bruce's drug is specially prepared by himself, and the drug is very powerful. Unless the antidote is used in advance like Bruce, once inhaled, you will be unconscious for at least a few minutes. And now Bruce is about to face a very serious problem. What to do with this turtle shell? Although he knew he was being watched, Bruce really couldn't give up and just let Tony go. He finally took advantage of Tony's arrogance to subdue him and obtain information on Wang Hao's group. This is probably the most favorable time for him. If Tony was let go this time, I'm afraid he would never have a chance to hear from him again. Even the electromagnetic pulse can't take effect on Tony's armor, he really can't think of any other means to defeat Tony. Master Wayne. Advertisement 5 minutes later, the communication was restored again. Bruce, who was sitting in the Batfighter, looked at the lit screen, and with a heart broken, he directly drove the fighter, lowered the hooklock, and tied Tony directly. Then the fighter plane took off and swept across the night sky. Bruce galloped all the way, and after a few minutes, he returned to the Batcave. Master Wayne. Seeing Bruce rushing back, Alfred was very surprised, especially after seeing Tony hanging under the fighter plane. He was even more puzzled. After the electromagnetic pulse erupted, the electronic equipment on Bruce's body temporarily failed. But Ah Fu could see the situation at the scene through the satellite. Because of this, he could understand that Tony's battle armor was not affected at that time, but he lost carelessly and was subdued by Bruce with an inconspicuous thing like drugs. But he never expected that Bruce would bring Tony back to the Batcave King. He exposed his base camp and lair to the enemy. Alfred, prepare for me. I want to interrogate this guy. Also, immediately turn on the security system to the highest level. I suspect we are being monitored. Bruce kept walking, unloading Tony from under the fighter plane while preparing various things. Soon, Tony was put into a transparent glass jar, with various lines and weapons pointed at him. At the same time, a satellite hidden by Bruce that was launched last year by Wayne Group's rocket, the Watchtower has been turned on at full power to scan everything in Gundam. Bruce will take the most drastic measures to deal with any attack and movement against the Batcave. Seeing Bruce's face as if he was facing an enemy, Alfred sighed. This is exactly what he was worried about. Bruce met an opponent he couldn't handle, and an existence that could destroy him. But he didn't know it, and he still wanted to bump into it head-on. Time passed bit by bit, and under the surveillance of the Watchtower, Gotham City, with its simple folk customs, was as quiet and peaceful as ever. Advertisement a hangover-like feeling lingered in his head, making him dizzy and numb. On the outskirts of Wayne Manor, near the Batcave, there were no signs of life appearing close. The voice of JARVIS hit Tony's ears, jolting him up, but then he looked around. And Ah Fu, even panicked. Oh, sir, you are awake. Although he couldn't get the nano armor off Tony's body, it didn't mean he couldn't kill Tony inside. Well, he's already a captive. Hiss. And Bruce repeatedly checked the security system many times, but did not find any signs of intrusion. Tell me, what kind of people are you? This didn't make him breathe a sigh of relief, but made him more nervous and anxious. Inside the glass jar, Tony, who was entangled with various wires, finally woke up. If something happened to him, he would still be able to accept it, but now he is not the only one exposed. Bruce pointed to the lines connected to the various joints of the armor and what looked like energy circulation. If something happened to Ah Fu, he might really not be able to accept it. Don't try to struggle or resist, because what greets you is a high-voltage electric shock of 100,000 volts. Chapter 176 Who should admit defeat? I tried to move my body, but the dense wires wrapped around my body made it difficult for Tony to move. Only then did he look up at Bruce, who still hadn't taken off his mask in front of him, and the lighting and atmosphere in the entire cave were adjusted to a very dark and depressing atmosphere. Definitely, that wasn't the case in Tony's eyes. Although the ability to move is restricted, the function of the armor is not hindered. You like black so much, it seems that your childhood was very miserable. Oh, sorry, I just found out that you lost your parents when you were young, much earlier than me, and then disappeared for several years before returning. Your skills were learned at that time of? Although 757 was restrained, they were locked in a dark underground cave. But Tony's mentality was still very good, and he even asked Bruce in turn. Tell me. The thick voice adjusted by the voice changer roared. While Bruce's suppressed voice made the atmosphere more terrifying, it also made Tony understand the fear in Bruce's heart. Oh, are you worried about the safety of that old butler? Hey, calm down? Seeing that Bruce's hands trembled and he was about to press the button to give himself a high-voltage electrotherapy, Tony quickly stopped stimulating him. Listen, I'm Jarvis. Unplug him. ZZ. The moment Bruce hesitated, Tony's voice suddenly changed, and it was too late when Bruce realized again. Jarvis, which had already hacked into Bruce's security system, cut off the power supply directly. Advertisement afterwards, there was only light flashing, and two sharp knives appeared in Tony's hands. With a few swings, all the wires wrapped around his body were cut off. I've said it all. I'm sure I'll win. I don't understand why you guys still want to engage in such a boring game. The entire Batcave lost power and was instantly plunged into darkness. In the perspective of Tony's infrared camera, two figures are moving and running quickly. And after Tony, who was wearing a steel armor, broke free from the shackles, in this narrow terrain, the Batfighter couldn't start, relying on Bruce's two small fists. It can't be Wani's opponent. Wayne, come out, I've seen you. Why are you hiding? Listen, I didn't intend to hurt you, you just need to admit defeat now. A palm bombarded Bruce's fleeing position in the field of vision, causing his figure to move a bit. Who are you? What is your purpose? Are you going to admit defeat? Listen, we are travelers from other worlds. Come here for fun. You should be able to see that I am similar to you in my world. He is a rich and skilled local tyrant. The word Tahao was also learned by Tony when he was learning Chinese. But he doesn't think it's a derogatory term. On the contrary, he thinks it's more satisfying than a simple rich man. Other worlds are all 10 of you. But who is the one who dispelled the dark clouds? That's right, we are all. Did you see the surveillance of the police station? As for that one, that is our sun god. Tony stood in the Batcave with a very reckless expression. After all, in his opinion, he really won. How could this situation be reversed? Advertisement. It's useless to give Bruce a chance to activate the Batfighter again even now. Because Jarvis can seize the remote control authority of the Batfighter in an instant. It's technically crushing, though Bruce is more than Tony knows, more comprehensive and more expansive. But they are all top talents, but Tony is specialized in playing technology. He is already a master-level expert in these areas, especially in the field of artificial intelligence and computers. Even Bruce's level in this area is not weak. Back to Tony is a top genius who hacked into the network center of the Hexagon building at the age of 13. There are battle armors for melee combat, long-range firepower is crushed, and technical support is controlled by Tony. From the current point of view, Bruce really has no room for manipulation. God? Is he a god? Yes, a true god. I know what you're thinking. The so-called god is just some powerful super ability. No, our sun god is a real god. After the voice fell, Tony suddenly turned his head and looked back, just because he suddenly heard some other movements. I see, thank you very much. Bruce's voice suddenly appeared behind Tony. At some point, Bruce, who had already put on a thick and unique Protective 5.0 suit, was facing Tony with a strange gun. Z. Blue rays shot out from the muzzle of the gun, and the temperature in the Batcave instantly dropped several degrees, making Ah Fu, who was holding a voice changer, shudder. Back then, Frozen Man's freezing gun almost froze the entire Gotham City under full power, but now it is only used to freeze a mere Iron Man. It's just black technology, so you are only allowed to have black technology in Marvel. When I give it to DC for free? Tony Stark, your intelligence is very important, but unfortunately, it's time for you to admit defeat now. Chapter 177. You really should admit defeat, yeah. Hawkeye was eating hot pot and drinking ice-cold beer. Seeing that Tony was tricked by Bruce for the second time, not only did he give all the information, but he was also caught. He wanted to jump up for joy. Be careful, Kaylin Tay, you will make us think that you have a personal enmity with Stark. Thor patted the overjoyed Hawkeye. Comparatively speaking, he didn't care so much about winning or losing this contest. After all, he just changed his hairstyle when he lost, and now he is willing to accept all kinds of changes. But in the Batcave, it was instantly frozen by the freezing gun, and it was directly smashed into an ice sculpture by the ultra-low temperature infinitely close to absolute zero. But he's still conscious. The protection of the battle armor did not hurt him, and the temperature created by the freezing gun was so low that the body functions of the frozen person would not be damaged. In this state, if the operation is done properly and the technology allows, it is even possible to restore the person completely. To put it bluntly, this is the legendary cryonics technology. 18. The original Frozen Man was originally a scientist who studied human body freezing technology, because his wife was terminally ill, and the current medical technology could not treat it, so he froze her. And he himself had an accident while operating this immature technology, and finally became a cold-blooded person. As for his crime, it was to earn medical expenses for his wife's treatment. That's why Bruce used this weapon against Tony, because he knew it wasn't going to kill Tony, it was just trapping him. Crack. The delicate hammer tapped lightly on Tony's body. Due to the influence of the ultra-low temperature, even the nano armor was frozen and could not work normally. In fact, under normal circumstances, if Tony is fully prepared, this kind of attack is of course useless, but this is not a normal situation after all. Tony is similar to before, also without any defense. This is the most advantageous point for Bruce against him, the psychological advantage. Advertisement. Tony was careless everywhere because his technology was too far ahead. He was bullied by Bruce once, and he just wanted to put on the mask. Unexpectedly, Bruce turned around and took out a freezing gun, which directly froze him into a popsicle. The nano armors were broken little by little, and then packed into special boxes to inhibit their work. In the end, only Tony in a black suit was revealed in front of the two of Bruce. Thaw him out. With the red ray gun out, Alfred walked into Tony, ready to melt him down. Suddenly, Tony, who should have been frozen, quickly reached out and grabbed the gray-haired Alfred. Damn it. Bruce heard the movement behind him, turned his head without saying a word, and punched Tony directly in the face. But to his surprise, Tony didn't really shoot at Alfred, he just frightened him and then rushed towards Bruce. Clap clap. There was a gust of contact, and Tony's movements were swift and quick, showing no sign of being frozen. He is a believer of the Sun God sect, and the vitality of the person who was healed by Wang Hao himself is much stronger than that of normal people. Coupled with the protection of the battle armor, the freezing gun just freezes the battle armor, but to him, at most, it is equivalent to an ordinary person falling into icy water in winter. As for his boxing skills, since becoming Iron Man, Tony has already started to exercise his fighting ability before joining the Avengers Alliance. Later, he got to know Wang Hao and the captain, Hulk. Facing these hand-to-hand fighters, Tony deeply realized that fighting skills are also a very important knowledge. So for such a long time, he has never relaxed himself, and he has never been ambiguous when it is time to exercise. In particular, there is vigorous vitality in his body, which greatly promotes his exercise. So even if he was facing a fighting master who could be called the pinnacle of human beings, Tony had an inseparable fight with Bruce for a while. Advertisement: simple and capable Stark boxing, boxing like the wind, like rain. The Fierce Wayne's comprehensive fighting technique combines the essence of various boxing techniques and years of actual combat experience. In the small space of the Batcave, two people come and go, fighting with great joy. Stop. Alfred held a weapon in his hand, and stopped the fighting between the two of them. Sir, I advise you not to continue, otherwise I'm not sure I'll make a hole in you. Ah Fu's face is not ugly, he has already seen that Tony has never killed or caused real and effective damage from the beginning to the end. As he said, he was just trying to test Bruce, so Ah Fu just aimed at Tony, but didn't shoot. That's not okay, he hasn't conceded yet, but I made a bet. Tony and Bruce stood facing each other, arms folded, wrestling with each other. Jarvis, can you hear me? Give me a new set of armor. Although the nano armor was smashed into pieces and put into a special box and couldn't be summoned, the core of Tony's chest was connected to a compressed space. In addition to a super large arc reactor and Jarvis host, there's also his armor library. Then suddenly, under the shocked gazes of Bruce and Ah Fu, a brand new set of battle armor suddenly appeared. Zzz. The sudden electric current made Tony's body tremble. You. The black smoke above his head shows Tony's attitude, and Bruce casually puts a hand on his neck, and then throws aside a piece of electric shock flying darts of the same style as Natasha Romanoff. I said, you are the one who should admit defeat. Chapter 178 finally admit defeat. Although his battle armor was on the side, ready to fire at any time, Tony, who had already been strangled by Bruce, obviously had no room to fight back. Are you Doraemon? Why are there so many strange things on you? Facing his current fate, Tony couldn't help but speak. Who is Doraemon? Bruce asked suspiciously, not letting go at all. But he soon realized that it was probably someone from Otherworld. There are never too many means to deal with the enemy. If you want to see it, I can tell you that I still have a lot of gadgets on my body. Batman is different from Iron Man. Iron Man basically relies on a set of armor to fight. But Batman's battlesuit is equipped with all kinds of weird props. Rope guns, stun guns, drugs, smoke bombs, flying darts for all sorts of different uses. Compared with Bruce, 007 seems to have scarce equipment. This is also the point where Tony suffers again and again. In terms of strength on paper, Tony at the moment is indeed far ahead of Bruce. Bruce, who has never been in contact with Kryptonians and who has not obtained the Mother Box, is technically only the top of the Earth, unlike Tony who has already taken off. But strength on paper is never real strength. No matter how strong Tony is on paper, it is not as strong as Wang Hao. Even if he stands there still, a person like Thanos cannot hurt him to the extent that he shares. Instead, Tony thought he was strong on paper and underestimated the enemy several times, giving Bruce a chance to make a move. Advertisement: I am afraid that only Wang Hao had foreseen this point in advance. He is very aware of Tony's ego, especially after Wang Hao said that Bruce is outstanding. He is even more eager to prove that he is better than Bruce. And he also knows that Bruce is a player who plays tactics and psychology. To put it bluntly, he is an old silver coin player. Unlike the captain who is really just a spiritual leader in the Avengers Alliance, Bruce is not a soy sauce in Junglian. Even, except for Superman, he is the most likely and breakthrough member. Because of this, Wang Hao bet directly on Bruce from the very beginning. Admit defeat: the nano armor is locked in a special box and cannot be summoned at all. The newly summoned armor is an old armor. Although it can be controlled remotely, it is obviously impossible to save Bruce before he knocks himself out. And now, even if Jarvis cuts off the power, it's useless. Looking into Bruce's face, Tony let out a long sigh. Okay, I give up, James Bond, let me go now. After the words fell, Bruce let go of his hand and let Tony go. By now, not only Ah Fu could see that Tony hadn't been serious from beginning to end, Bruce could also see this. Besides, he still hadn't found the man who was spying on him, nor had he found out how Tony had hacked into the security system in his Batcave. In other words, at the moment, he had no choice but to trust Tony because he was helpless. Nice. A light curtain appeared in the Batcave out of thin air, and the situation in the hot pot restaurant appeared in front of Bruce, Tony and others. Hawkeye jumping up and down happily on the screen, and Little Phoenix pouting sullenly. Great job, Stark, you're awesome, advertisement. Hawkeye's joy made Bruce's eyes full of doubts, and he once wondered if this guy was a fool. What kind of technology is this? From a hot pot restaurant with a strong florist style to Gotham City on the other side of the ocean, this is definitely not something that human technology can do. Is there a stake in the competition between us? He, Hawkeye, will be a super ability person from now on. Bruce was shocked, and couldn't help looking at Tien Hao, who was still teasing Little Phoenix on the opposite side of the screen. Facing the angry Tony, Hawkeye didn't care at all. From then on, he was no longer the weakest one in the Overwatch League. I have to say, you are really nice. My name is Kaylin Tay Barton. It is obviously a mirror-like screen, but Zhao Haoyi can get it directly. Divine power. After Hawkeye complimented Tony, he came running over to compliment Bruce, who was still surprised that what they thought was a screen turned out to be a portal. By the way, Master Wayne won. Is there any reward? Although we didn't participate in your bet, as a participant, there should be some rewards, right? Haha, I don't need it anymore, I won. The Sun God will give me super abilities, I don't have to shoot with this broken bow anymore. While explaining, Tony thawed his nano armor from the open box, allowing the nano robots to gather on his body again. Barton, you'll never try to wear my armor again. Bruce finally reacted, and over there, the excited Hawkeye had already walked towards the screen, and then under the shocked gazes of Bruce and Alfred, he directly passed through from the other end. This is the real God in Tony's description. This is not technology, this is divine power. Chapter 179. Father and Son Love. Alfred. Bruce looked at the old man behind him, who looked forward with a smile on his face, and his eyes fell on Wang Hao through the screen. And everyone was a little stunned when they heard this sentence, but after thinking about it carefully, it seemed that it should be so. After all, they took Bruce into the gamble on their own, without considering his feelings at all, and they really should make some compensation. You're right. Wang Hao, who brought the sullen Little Phoenix back to life, carried the little girl across the screen to the Batcave. The originally dark and damp Batcave suddenly became warm and bright. I opened the market, so I will distribute the rewards. Wang Hao sized it up for a moment, then set his sights on Ah Fu. Afterwards, strands of golden light converged and slowly merged into Ah Fu's body in the void. What? The influx of golden mysterious energy made Ah Fu suddenly cry out, but this was not a cry of pain, but a sound that was extremely refreshing. It's as comfortable as stretching your waist after waking up, and stepping into a bathtub filled with warm water after a tiring day. And Bruce, who cared the most, couldn't help staring at his old buddy with wide eyes when he saw Wang Hao's power acting on Alfred. Then he discovered that the gray-haired Alfred, who had already buried most of his body in the soil, was becoming younger and stronger at a speed visible to the naked eye. The gray hair began to turn blue, and then turned black, the old version of the face was fading, the wrinkles began to smooth and disappear, and the thin body gradually became full. Alfred, who originally looked like Bruce's old father, turned into a man like him in just a few seconds, and continued to change, becoming younger. In the end, when all the changes were over, the old man who was originally an octogenarian turned into a young man in the prime of his 20s. Advertisement, Master Wayne. Alfred opened his eyes, looked at the wide-eyed, shocked Bruce in front of him, and then touched his throat in surprise. Just because the voice he made just now was not his original voice, but a younger and clearer voice that had been missing for decades. Alfred, how are you feeling? Bruce's eyes were suddenly filled with excitement, he couldn't help but grab his hand, and looked up and down this young man who was very similar to the Ah Fu he remembered. It's very, very relaxing, and it feels full of strength and energy. Ah Fu looked down at his arms, the young hands were very different from the skinny look before. He was vaguely aware of the changes in himself, thanks. Bruce turned his head and thanked Wang Hao sincerely. Here's your prize. Wang Hao shook his head with a smile, he also got what he wanted. Starting today, Tony must wear the armor he painted for a month. As for what colors and patterns he will paint, hey. Sir, no, generous God, please allow me to make an excessive request. I hope you can give this youth and vitality to Master Wayne, not to me, an old guy, BIBG, who is about to go to the ground. No, Alfred, what are you talking about? Bruce interrupted Alfred with a growl. No, sir, the God, that's fine, Alfred, you deserve it, and I don't need you to worry about it. Advertisement. Bruce glared at Ah Fu. He had never lost his temper with his old housekeeper like this. They had disagreements, but in the end most of them ended with Ah Fu's concession and support. Signal source? It's just that they want each other to enjoy this God-given opportunity. Subsequently, as the ice layer shook, the explorers and soldiers in the camp were alarmed, but before they could respond, they saw a flight break through the ice layer and fly into the sky and disappeared. Alright, Alfred, what is given to you is yours. I am not a commissary here, I can bargain for you. And this time, Bruce also needs Ah Fu's concession. At that time, it was not the two of them who had a difficult choice, but Wang Hao himself. At the same time, in a certain space far away in the starry sky, with the distortion of space, a spaceship with a strange appearance slowly passed through a certain planet belt. Although Wang Hao also felt that the relationship between Bruce and Ah Fu was very good, it would be better not to continue such humility. Tony and Hawkeye at the side looked at the master and servant in front of them tenderly. What a selfless feeling, what a heartwarming picture. As soon as Wang Hao spoke, the two members of the Wayne family had no choice but to give up, and a group of people finally sat down to have a good chat. What a precious and rare opportunity to return to youth, but the old and the young in front of them almost turned against each other over who should have this kind of power. A long-lost signal appeared on the screen, causing the atmosphere in the spaceship to suddenly change. Beep. However, Ah Fu smiled and looked at Wang Hao with hopeful eyes. It moved me a little bit. If someone sees it, it's hard to imagine that a body can explode at such a terrifying speed. At this moment, near a certain camp near the North Pole, a young man put the woman in his arms on a flat ice field, and then disappeared in place. Chapter 180. Heading to Central City. After Wang Hao blessed Alfred, the relationship between the tour group and the Wayne family suddenly eased. Maybe Bruce's heart is still full of guard, but he also has to realize one thing. That is, his current ability cannot fight against the tour group. It's just a Tony. If it's really a head-on confrontation instead of this kind of competition, maybe he can't beat the opponent. Not to mention that there are many capable people in the tour group. The most important thing is Wang Hao with mysterious methods and seemingly boundless power. This manor is nice. From the Batcave to the Wayne Manor on the ground, everyone stayed temporarily under the arrangement of Ah Fu. And looking at this gorgeous yet quaint Wayne Manor, the expression on loser Tony Stark's face is clearly not complimenting anything. The similarities between him and Bruce are not just billionaire plus superhero status. And the family history of the two. The origins of the Stark family and the Wayne family are very similar. The nobles who came from Europe at the end of the Great Voyage, developed all the way in Megu, and finally created a considerable family business. The most important thing is that both of them inherited the huge industry of their parents, and then carried it forward. Howard Stark built the Stark family into one of the most powerful strata in the United States in one fell swoop, focusing on the large-scale defense cooperation during World War II, and the establishment of S.H.I.E.L.D. later. Howard contributed a lot. And Bruce's father, Thomas Wayne, also used the name of reviving Gotham City to connect the Wayne family with the entire Gotham City. During the Thomas period, the Wayne Group made great efforts in many projects such as urban roads, various infrastructure constructions, and water conservancy projects. It is no exaggeration to say that half of Gotham City's industries and people's livelihood depend on the Wayne family. Advertisement. But now, two people who are so similar, but Tony lost the competition with Bruce. One can imagine how upset he was. In contrast, Bruce was much happier. After all, Ah Fu, who has accompanied him throughout his life, has returned to his youth. This man who is also a father and friend, has given him the most help, and never left him in the most difficult times. He is already Bruce's biggest bondage in this world. If there is anyone who can make Bruce go crazy, that person is definitely not Joker, but Alfred. If something happens to Ah Fu, the Dark Knight will no longer be able to restrain the demons in his heart, and will go to the most terrifying extreme. Do you know the Flash? At the banquet at night, Wang Hao suddenly asked Bruce. Before coming here, he searched part of the world's information through the hyperspace communicator, but in different time and space, it is naturally difficult to capture information. So Wang Hao certainly doesn't have a complete understanding of this world. And he didn't want to search the whole world as soon as he came up. After all, it would be the same as playing a standalone game and looking at the strategy when he came up. It would be meaningless. The Flash? Who? Never heard of it. Bruce shook his head, and his shaking of his head also let Wang Hao know that either there is really no The Flash in this world, or the Flash has not yet been born. In other words, Barry Wren has not been struck by lightning yet. With this thought in mind, Wang Hao's mood suddenly improved a lot. Wanda has become a witch, but the brother-in-law has not yet super ability. Advertisement. Although he is not the first The Flash, he can only be regarded as the second generation of The Flash. But Jay Garrick, the first generation of The Flash, did not have the concept of Speed Force at that time, so he can only be regarded as an ordinary speeder. Sitting in the special compartment of the train, the spacious compartment is surrounded by 10 people, and all kinds of exquisite snacks and tea are also placed on the table. In any version, no matter how it is restarted, the setting of Speed Force remains unchanged. That is, this thing was born because of Barry Wren. A group of superheroes and gods who used to go up and down and would never walk if they could fly, are sitting on the primitive train at this moment, sticking their heads out of the window from time to time. It's hard. I'm going to give Pietro a Speed Force. Wang Hao is waving a newspaper in his hand. The headline on the front page reads that the particle accelerator of the Central City Star Laboratory is about to open, which symbolizes that human science and technology have entered the working stage again. I heard that there is a kind of people who like to travel by train. They pass the long railway, enjoy the scenery along the way, and get off the train when they see places they like. Wait, there may not be any. If it is a version close to the movie, after Barry Wren obtained the ability, he hid himself. It wasn't until Bruce got the information about the superpower from Leica Luthor that he learned of the existence of this guy. After the banquet, everyone rested separately. The next morning, the tour group set off again. Wang Hao and the others bid farewell to the two of Bruce and boarded the train to another city. Central City, in this world, can be regarded as a well-known big city. The point is that the scientific research results are good. That's why Wang Hao brought Pietro with him when he came to this world, because this world is DC, where there is such a thing as the Speed Force. Although it is said that Wang Hao has some super abilities for Pietro, but Quicksilver is obviously more suitable for him as a speedster. Ask for flowers, but if Barry Wren didn't become the Flash, where did the Speed Force come from? You still haven't said where we're going. Chapter 181. Dr. Harrison Wells, a master of physics. Oh, did he design this particle accelerator? According to the above statement, if he is really allowed to complete it, he can indeed become a Hull-level scientist, and Einstein, Bohr, Planck, Yang Zhenning and others are tied together. Tony played with the newspaper in his hand, with a slightly surprised expression on his face. Unexpectedly, there are such outstanding talents in this world. I can't wait to meet him. The so-called heroes cherish heroes, but Tony is still very interested in meeting a scientist who is also a genius. He even thought about going back decades through time and space, 990, back to the time when his father was still young. Go meet the powerful men in the scientific community that Howard Stark met back then, discuss quantum mechanics with them, and discuss the vastness of the universe with them. Seeing that Tony was so interested in Harrison Wells, Wang Hao grinned, and this smile was immediately noticed by Tony. Wait, with your smile, it's not a good thing if you smile. There's something wrong with this person, right? The snickering was discovered, and Wang Hao didn't hide it. It can only be said that this guy has learned a lot recently, or it may be that he has suffered a lot and has a long memory. This guy is from the future of the 25th century, but he is trapped in this time and cannot go back. 25th century? Everyone was surprised. They didn't expect that they could find such a secret figure in a random newspaper. Some of them have also been to the future, but only 10 years later, although technology has developed a lot, the changes have not been that great. Advertisement, but in the 25th century, that is a time span of 500 years. In the 25th century, he has mastered time travel technology similar to ours, but we rely on PIM particles. What does he rely on? And, if it is time travel technology, why can't he go back? Curious baby Tony is online again. Maybe only a person like him who has to know everything about everything can become a great scientist. After all, curiosity is the most basic element of scientific research. It's not a technology, but a certain ability. I can only tell you that there are not only 4 basic forces in this world, but 5. Puff. Warm tea splashed out of Tony's mouth, and it was about to bloom in front of Wang Hao, but a force field wrapped his head, and all the tea splashed out seemed to hit a mirror same, bounced back and made his face covered. Ahem. Tony didn't have time to say anything, so he quickly took out a few pieces of paper to wipe his face and body clean, and then he opened his eyes and shouted. Wang Hao shrugged his shoulders. As the 5th basic force in this world, the speed force was not what he said, it was set by the editors of DC. The 4 fundamental forces are the basic way in which the material universe exists, and together they constitute the universe as it is today. Don't look at me, different universes have different operation rules, what's so hard to understand? Without any of these, this universe would not be the current universe, the sky full of stars, and all material structures would be completely different.
Advertisement. It's as if the 3 primary colors make up the basic colors. Red plus blue is purple, red plus green is yellow, green plus blue is cyan, and the 3 together become white.
And everyone also tacitly ignored him. There's no way. Banner is not there. Among all the people present, not counting the 4 gods Wang Hao, Lil Phoenix, Janata, and Thor, the highest education is a high school graduate. And the material universe can be regarded as white mixed with 3 colors. If another color is added at this time, it will inevitably undergo earth-shaking changes. Well, I just want to ask, when will you cash out my bet? At this time, a person suddenly leaned over slowly and sat opposite to Wang Hao. Looking at the Hawkeye in front of him who wanted to speak but was embarrassed, Wang Hao felt anxious for him when he saw the tangled look on his face. And there is one more kind, in fact, the same is true. The distance from Gotham to Central City is not too far, but it is still a bit of a journey. The train is moving. After chatting for a while, everyone gradually quieted down. Some sleep at 3.3, and those who look at the scenery. He kept mumbling and eating snacks with his small mouth. But Tony still had an unbelievable expression on his face, and he kept mumbling there for the rest of the trip, taking out various instruments from his compressed space from time to time to detect the surrounding space and various data variables. If there is something that violates scientific principles, it is because those editors do not understand science. What does it have to do with Wang Hao, the sun god? Speak up if you have something to say. Wafa, this is impossible. How could there be an extra force, and the formation rules of the entire universe will change? It is more appropriate to count on Hawkeye and Wanda's siblings to understand what Tony is muttering there than to count on Wang Hao to shut Tony up. Wang Hao hugged Shanner, and the two of them leaned on the sofa and looked at the clouds and clouds outside the window, very comfortable. Chapter 182. Birth of God. Hawkeye scratched his head embarrassingly. Last night he held back from asking, but ended up tossing and turning, and didn't sleep well all night. Under the influence of a certain egomaniac, he won the game and finally got rid of his status as a weak chicken. But since yesterday, Wang Hao has never mentioned this matter again, which made him feel restless and restless. Seeing Hawkeye, who usually fights against the alien invaders without changing his face, showing such a look, Wang Hao immediately understood that he might be very tormented. So he didn't continue to torture him. Unlike Tony, the guy likes to mess around. Sometimes he's so cheap that you want to slap him, but Hawkeye is always hardworking. Compared to the efforts of the captain and Tony, Hawkeye is not much worse than the two of them, and he will not frown when it is his turn to sacrifice. Only at certain times, lack of ability makes him look inferior to the efforts of the captain and Tony, the two souls of the Women's Federation. 18. Don't worry, when you arrive in Central City, you will have what you want. At this time, you can think more about what kind of ability you want. Looking at the newspaper on the table and the report on the opening of the particle accelerator, Wang Hao knew what it meant. In addition to the birth of the Flash, a large number of super abilities will also emerge in this world. Plus, this one for you. A piece of information was passed into Hawkeye's mind by Wang Hao. This is An alternative version of holy boxing. Even if you don't have super ability, you can still strengthen yourself through practice, surpassing the limitations of the human body. Advertisement Shengchuan was developed by Wang Hao, and it was given to the Templars to practice. Definitely, it can also be called a practice. Moreover, it is a very powerful technique, but the high-level practice of holy boxing depends on the degree of belief in Wang Hao. Otherwise, it can only be a technique that simply extracts the power of life to improve the essence of one's own life. Wang Hao modified it a little to remove the factor of belief, and the power was naturally greatly reduced. It may not be comparable to Han's ability to hammer Juggernaut after a year of practice. But if you persevere in practicing, the harvest is still considerable. Don't forget to think about what kind of super ability you want. Let Hawkeye go away from your eyes, don't disturb yourself to see the scenery, Wang Hao also reminded. The explosion of the particle accelerator at Star Labs was a rare opportunity. Basically, as long as the heart has obsession and reacts with a certain energy or special substance, it can stably become a super ability person. In addition to creating the Flash, Vibe, Frost Killer, Weather Necromancer, Firestorm and a large number of powerful ability creators all came from this Reverse Flash carefully planned accident. Helping Pietro get the Speed Force is naturally the purpose of Wang Hao's coming here, but if Hawkeye is lucky enough, it is not impossible for Hawkeye to get what he dreamed of in this explosion. As night fell quietly, a train slowly entered the station in the central city. In the business class, 10 people came out in a file, and then, along with the flow of people, gathered towards a certain building in the center of the city. Hey, Barry, if you don't come, the celebration will start. You want me to watch with you, but where are you? Among the crowd, a dark-skinned girl looked at the upcoming celebration ahead, and Dr. Wells, the owner of the Star Laboratory who had already appeared, showed an anxious look on her face. Sorry, Iris, I have to deal with some work in the evidence room. If I don't arrive in time, please, take a few more photos for me. In the Zhongshan police station, a young man who hurried back to his office looked at the sky helplessly. It didn't rain sooner or later, but it happened at this time. Advertisement he had already gone out so much that he had to come back to close the roof, and the evidence in the office was wet by a certain heavy rain. Boom. A muffled thunder sounded, and Wang Hao looked up at the sky. His eyes couldn't help looking in a certain direction. Then, he looked to the front of the crowd. Standing in front of the laboratory, facing many media and citizens, Harrison Wells smiled. With a wave of his hand, he pressed the button on the console in front of him heavily. In the laboratory, countless researchers held their breaths to start the accelerator that had cost them countless efforts. The electric current poured in, and the energy surged. Under the action of the magnetic field, the released particles began to move along the accelerator pipeline at an unimaginable speed, and soon reached the limit speed close to the speed of light. Boom. However, I don't know which link has a problem. Suddenly, a loud noise came from the pipeline. Immediately afterwards, the entire Star Laboratory was blown apart with the power equivalent to a nuclear reactor explosion. The roof was lifted directly, terrifying energy began to pour out, and a strong shockwave spread to the surroundings. But this is just the beginning. After the huge energy sustaining the accelerator explodes out of control, the energy of the dark matter plane opened after the particle accelerator is turned on will explode. A huge tide of energy flooded the entire city. Boom. The thunder rang, and a thunderbolt fell from the sky, hitting the roof of the Zhongshan police station. The young man who was pulling the iron chain with his forehand and trying to close the lighting shed on the top was instantly empowered by the thunder. At the same time, dark energy struck, and the two energies collided and contacted in the young man's body. Afterwards, a mysterious and strange energy began to appear. The entire universe seems to have fallen into a standstill at this moment. From this moment, the energy that suddenly appeared spreads to the entire multi-universe in an instant, traversing all time and space in the past, present, and future. The Speed Force was born. Chapter 183. I want super ability too. Magic. Looking at each other with Little Phoenix, this little guy also sensed the change just now. Compared with the heartless little guy, Wang Hao was more emotional. Why can a combination of being struck by lightning and dark energy give birth to a powerful force at the level of the basic force of the universe? Don't think dark energy is magical, it's not magical at all. To put it bluntly, the so-called dark energy is the constituent energy region of the subplane that is different from the biomass plane. Basically all magic, occult techniques or other peculiar abilities, the energy they use can be called dark energy. The effect of this thing can even be equated to aura, and the effect of the particle accelerator explosion planned by the Reverse Flash can also be equivalent to the so-called recovery of aura. It is precisely because of this that Wang Hao wondered why an ordinary thunderbolt plus a dark energy tide could give birth to such a powerful force as the Speed Force. It can only be said that the will of the universe is like this. This can indeed only be attributed to the will of the universe. It is the destiny of the universe. After Barry Wren was struck by lightning, the Speed Force came into being to fill the needs of this universe. It is said that the Speed Force was born and created by Barry Wren, but I am afraid that he is actually just a tool man. The sudden explosion of the particle accelerator turned this place into a disaster scene. Countless people ran away with their heads in their arms, and the aftermath of the Xingchen laboratory continued. However, Wang Hao's goal has been achieved, and there is no need to stay in this chaotic scene. Let's go W. Advertisement. Wang Hao turned his head to look at the rest of the people. No one had any objection, but Natasha Romanoff suddenly screamed. Barton. Everyone looked over, and it turned out that Hawkeye, who had been inspired by Wang Hao before, fainted for some reason. And Natasha Romanoff, as his friend for many years, was the first to discover that something was wrong. It's okay, on the contrary, he is still in the cloud. After looking around for a while, Wang Hao's words made Natasha Romanoff's worries drop, and then Thor supported Hawkeye, and the group disappeared in place. No, we came to Central City just to watch this explosion? In the blink of an eye, everyone had already appeared in the new city. After all, the particle accelerator explosion accident in the Central City had a great impact. Now the whole city is in chaos, and it is really not a suitable place for travel and temporary stay. Yeah, just to watch the explosion. Can't you see that Barton got what he wanted? Facing Tony's doubts, Wang Hao, standing on the streets of the metropolis, said confidently. Yes, they came back again. After a day of driving, they returned to the same place, across the river, is Gotham City. You mean, the explosion just now can give people a super ability? Did I say that? Well, I did. Then why didn't you say earlier, I also want to try to see if I can get some super ability? With a depressed face, Tony said with a sigh, don't you have the sentry armor? Tony obtained a large amount of mutant genetic information from Steric Industries, and he almost took over the data of the entire Sentry project. Advertisement, so he will not lack super ability if he lacks anything. The ability of a Warframe is not the same as my own ability. In fact, Tony has always disliked this kind of so-called super ability that made a mess of himself. But when he really saw the vastness of the universe and the overlord of the starry sky, he completely abandoned this idea. Now he has become a pragmatist long ago. As long as it is useful and powerful, no matter what ability it is, use it first and then talk about it. The more there are no side effects, the better. If there are side effects, it is also necessary to see what the side effects are and whether they can offset the side effects, and then list them as alternative targets under special circumstances. So at this moment, he heard that he had missed an excellent opportunity to obtain a super ability, which made Tony feel so disappointed. As for it, it's just super ability. If you want it, you might as well fawn on Little Phoenix. Maybe she'll give you a pull when she's in a good mood. Wang Hao picked up the Little Phoenix next to him. This little girl didn't look very happy today because she couldn't sleep with Wang Hao last night. And Tony looked at the cute and delicate little girl. Although Tony didn't want to admit it, she was indeed cuter than his future daughter Morgan. And the little girl's sullen look made Tony feel like his heart would melt, but he couldn't think of why this little girl could give him super ability. It's no wonder, Chian's good, that he didn't expect that only Ancient One knew Lil Phoenix's identity. As for Tony and the others, they only knew that Lil Phoenix was a god, but they didn't know how powerful it was. Little girl, don't be upset. I will let Stark take you to eat hot pot later, and buy you ice cream. Now, I will give you a lollipop. As he said that, a golden lollipop appeared in Wang Hao's hand, and the rich life energy condensed into a ball, which made the little girl smile instantly. I also want. Seeing this, Janata at the side stretched out her small hand and tugged at Wang Hao's clothes. Wang Hao had no choice but to give her one too. I'm serious, if you want, please this little girl, and the ice cream will be served later. Any super abilities will not be a problem. Chapter 184. Give my brother-in-law a red envelope. Metropolis is the most prosperous city on Earth in the 600th world. This name used to belong to Gotham, but Gotham, everyone knows that because of the simple folk customs and the always gloomy weather, people rebuilt a new city across a river. Metropolis. If Gotham represents the night of New York, then Metropolis represents the day of New York. In this city, Wang Hao and his team found a large shopping mall and started shopping and eating activities. Due to the generous sponsorship of a certain Mr. Wayne who is unwilling to disclose the name, all the consumption of the tour group in this world is paid by Mr. Wayne. Well, not a generous sponsorship either. Tony sold certain technology to Bruce. In exchange, he can continue to be a banker in this world. Definitely, he has money, that is, the big guys in the tour group have money. Wow, this dress looks so good. Channer dragged Natasha Romanoff, 563 Ganata and Wanda, 4 alluring women, to linger in various luxury stores and clothing stores. Even though Janata is not interested in these things, Wanda is a little restrained because she used to live in poverty, and now she has become a magician practicing in the mountains. But the enthusiasm of Channer and Natasha Romanoff could not be hindered, and soon the two women also fell. Tony took Little Phoenix to buy ice cream, and Thor sat down in a bar and was fighting for drinks with the whole bar. Hawkeye, who was still comatose, was left in a certain hotel room by everyone, so the only one who was with Wang Hao now is a Pietro-spirited guy. Pietro, do you want super ability? Seeing everyone walking away, especially the disappearance of a middle-aged man who wanted everything, Wang Hao asked his brother-in-law with a smile. Advertisement, super ability? Want it? Pietro didn't hide his, heart. After all, a teenager, who wouldn't love to have a super ability and save the world? Zzz. The sudden electric current sound stunned Pietro for a moment. This is, the super ability for you as my gift to you? It was the first time someone gave a red envelope to his brother-in-law when they met. Facing the sensible and sensible Pietro, what Wang Hao offered was naturally not as simple as a red envelope. Its name is Speed Force, and what it does specifically, you will know after you experience it yourself. When Barry Wren was struck by lightning, the Speed Force was born, and the endless time and space of the entire DC universe were connected in series. Wang Hao's consciousness went deep into the universe, into time and space, and intercepted a divine Speed Force from it. This is also the easiest and most effective way to obtain super abilities. The Speed Force is not too different from Green Lantern's emotional spectrum. Basically, as long as you get it, you can have its power. The speed people in the 600th world, except for the Wren family, which is inherited, the others basically obtained the super Speed Force by accident. The golden electric current flashed away and directly penetrated into Pietro's body. Then, under the nourishment of the life force provided by Wang Hao, this super speed force rapidly grew in Pietro's body, growing and infecting every cell. Ordinary speedsters need weeks or even months to change, but with the help of Wang Hao, it can be completed in an instant. Advertisement. Although in terms of absolute speed, in this universe, he might not be as exaggerated as the speed force. After all, the setting of this thing is the ultimate speed, which is faster than teleportation. Because the cosmic god wanted to teleport, the moment this thought was generated, there was a moment of time, and this moment allowed Wally to cross the universe. So much so that he now sees that the people around him are standing still. Okay, I won't tease you anymore. The most typical example, the third generation of the Flash, Wally made a bet with the cosmic god. The two set off from the end of the universe together, and the cosmic god teleported there directly, but when they arrived, they found that Wally was already waiting for him on the Earth. Hey, why isn't everyone moving? Pietro was startled when Wang Hao, who had been motionless, suddenly spoke. Pietro has just mastered the speed force, and although Wang Hao's help has made his speed force very powerful, it is reflected in the exaggerated speed. What exactly is going on? Otherwise, in his field of vision, it would not be light scattering, but photons floating in front of his eyes. It was too quiet, absolutely quiet without any sound, and everyone was still, even the lights, the neon lights in the shopping mall, and the colors that evolved in the air were so clear. Pietro raised his head, silver lightning flashed in his eyes, but he suddenly found that something seemed wrong around him. But Wang Hao may not be as fast as God, but Pietro has not reached that speed now, he has not even reached the speed of light. Looking around, Pietro was shocked by an eerie silence. What's going on here? However, Wang Hao doesn't need the speed force to be able to have such a fast speed. Pietro, who didn't know that he had entered the speeding field, seemed a little frightened. He couldn't help looking at Wang Hao beside him, but found that he was also motionless. So for now, Wang Hao is still much faster than Pietro. Just like Superman can see Barry's movement, Wang Hao can also keep up with Pietro's speed rhythm. Chapter 185. Your name is Quicksilver. It's not that they are still, but that you are too fast, so it seems that they are still. In this speeding field, Wang Hao and Pietro are having a dialogue. He's not using the speed force at the moment, but using his perception of overspeed to adapt himself to Pietro's speed. Let me see, the current speed is that our thinking speed and action speed are about 700 times faster than normal people's. From your point of view, the speed of taking a normal step is at least equivalent to that of an outsider. Run at 8 times the speed of sound. Yes, 8 times the speed of sound, that's what Pietro is going at now. It may not seem high, but you must know that even if Barry Wren just woke up, it is only 3 times the speed of sound. And 8 times the speed of sound, this is a very critical point. In the TV series of The Flash, Barry knew for the first time that he could travel through time, to the past, future and other time and space after being instructed by the Reverse Flash. And to do this, first of all, to reach 8 times the speed of sound. Yes, the Flash doesn't travel through time by reaching the speed of light to do so. Before Wang Hao crossed over, the Flash had already played in the 5th season, but the speed of the speedsters, except for Savitar, was only a few tens of times the speed of sound at the fastest, that's still caused by taking drugs. Including the Barry in the movie version, that is, the one in the Junglian universe, his speed is far from the speed of light. And the reason why they can change the flow of time without reaching the speed of light is mainly due to the speed force. The speed force sounds like a force acting on speed, but actually running fast is just a manifestation of the speed force, not its essence. The speed force is actually a force that links time and space. Advertisement. Otherwise, with the physical fitness of the speedsters, it is impossible to withstand that powerful speed. Leaving aside the acceleration, the wind resistance of running alone is enough to crush steel. Under normal circumstances, if you want to have that kind of speed, your physical fitness must be as indestructible as Superman. And the Flash's ability to possess such a terrifying speed with that kind of physical fitness is all dependent on the protection of the speed force. In other words, when they activate the speed force and start running, they are actually no longer in the real world, and naturally they are not affected by various physical laws in the real world. After explaining the speed force to Pietro, Pietro finally accepted the fact that he became a speedster. But the excitement was the excitement, and Pietro, who was a little familiar with his ability under Wang Hao's guidance, suddenly showed bitterness. Brother Wang Hao, although it is a good thing that I have a super ability, I am also very grateful to you, but I can't keep like this forever. Their speed is slower than a snail. Pietro seemed a little helpless, but this worry is naturally not a problem. Feel the power in your body carefully, that is the electric current. Imagine the feeling of taking a deep breath to calm your mind, and just restrain it. Naturally, the speed force can be switched on and off, otherwise Barry and other speedsters would have gone crazy. After all, living in a world where everyone is slower than a snail, and other people are like statues in your eyes, that feeling is too uncomfortable. After Wang Jing pointed out, Pietro quickly tried it, and sure enough, when he felt it with his heart, he found that the speed force was flowing in his body. Pietro shook his head. Seeing this, a smile appeared on Wang Hao's face. Seeking Flowers 0 advertisement. Thus, Quicksilver was officially born. After some experiments, he restrained this force, and immediately, all the voices came back and the people around him also moved. Just as everyone was staying in the most luxurious and top-notch hotel in the metropolis, and returning to their respective rooms to prepare for rest, Wanda suddenly knocked on the door of Wang Hao's 3-person double room. He had never considered that he had a super ability before. Even if Wanda was accepted as an apprentice by Ancient One and teleported away in front of him, he was only happy for Wanda. Call. But at least I can live a normal life. Pietro couldn't answer Wang Hao's sudden question. As a result, a certain ice cream shop was emptied out, causing countless little children to cry because they couldn't eat the ice cream, and the prodigal girls who spent countless money overnight bit. Although he did not have the experience of being influenced by Mind Gem, but gained the Speed Force, the future of Quicksilver can be expected. Pietro breathed a sigh of relief, although he felt that when he was a little excited, the Speed Force in his body was ready to move, which made him feel that the people around him slowed down. By the way, Pietro, you have a super ability, and you have also joined the Overwatch League as a superhero. Have you figured out your codename yet? Chatted with Quicksilver for a while, stopped in the mall, and after shopping and eating, the mall was about to close. Then why not call it Quicksilver? When you activate the Speed Force, the lightning on your body seems to be silver. Quicksilver is very suitable for you. Pietro didn't have any idea at first. Wang Hao said so. He also thought it was good, so he nodded. At least, he won't be killed by bullets like before. Never thought before. Chapter 186. Affectionate Beauty. Go quickly, don't make people wait in a hurry. Channer, who was at the bedside with Natasha Romanoff to try on Wang Hao's new clothes bought tonight, gave Wang Hao a push. Wang Hao, who was going to enjoy some kind of special service related to clothes, had no choice but to get up and walk out. What's wrong? Opening the door, it was Wanda who lowered her head and looked at her proud part. Can we go out for a walk? Wanda whispered as she heard the chirping of birds and swallows in the room. In this regard, Wang Hao had nothing to say, but followed Wanda to the street outside. Thank you. After walking a few hundred meters, Wanda, who had been silent all the time, suddenly said, 993. Pietro is my last relative, and even my younger brother who grew up with me, although I know it may not be a big deal to you, but to me, this is all. Wanda, who had been walking with her head down, raised her head to look at Wang Hao. Her beautiful eyes were full of gratitude and some other kind of emotion. On the way to the hotel, Pietro told Wanda about the Speed Force, and of course he meant to show off. Wanda became a magic apprentice and would become an excellent magic witch in the future, and he was not willing to lag behind and became a powerful speedster. Although he wasn't jealous of anything, but when Ancient One accepted Wanda as an apprentice but didn't bring him along, he felt somewhat disappointed. After all, the twin sisters who grew up together have the opportunity to become extraordinary beings, but he is still just an ordinary person. There is such a gap. But it is different now. The speed and power are extremely powerful. As long as Pietro does not have any accidents, then he must be among the top group of people in the future. In this way, at least he will not fall behind in Wanda's footsteps and can continue to protect her. This is Pietro's idea. For him, the identity of Quicksilver means the most to him so that he can continue to protect Wanda as before. Advertisement. But as far as Wanda is concerned, she is very clear about why Pietro changed and why there is such a change. Wang Hao did all this. It must be for her. You don't need to be grateful, but if you really want to thank me, you might as well take some practical actions. The girl who had been captured by Wang Hao fell into self-movement, but Wang Hao didn't want to see such a scene of tears. So he decisively chose to spoil the atmosphere and put his face in front of Wanda. The meaning was self-evident. Well, however, the girl's response was even more violent. Wanda turned Wang Hao's head enthusiastically, looked at him face to face, and leaned forward directly. Oh! A young man and woman hugged and kissed each other on the street because of love and because of the most beautiful thing in the world. The passers-by also gave admiration and cheers for their face, and applauded for them to find their love. After more than 5 minutes, Wang Hao and Wanda separated. If it wasn't for Wang Hao crossing the air, the scary Wang would have been suffocated by this request early on. How about it? Do you like this feeling? Holding Wanda in his arms, Wang Hao walked forward amidst the blessings of passers-by. No, knocked on Wang Hao's chest, Wanda leaned against Wang Hao. The smile on her face represented happiness. This can be regarded as a key step in the relationship between the two, although Wang Hao noticed Wanda from the beginning, and became more determined in the subsequent relationship. Alas! The two hugged each other and walked on the road at night. Before they knew it, they had already left the hotel, and came to a residential area with a different scenery. Advertisement. There are low-rise houses on both sides, no more than 4 or 5 floors high, and there are various shops on both sides of the street, instead of the dazzling array of commercial streets before. The mobile phone that was supposed to be on standby automatically turned on the screen at some point, and also made the sound of Zilla Zilla snowflakes. Wang Hao deliberately teased her, but when she saw that she was a little bit annoyed, he smiled and said. She just kept pushing Wang Hao and let him take her back. Sizzling, sizzling. It wasn't just the TV in the store behind them that had a problem, but all the TVs on the street. Wang Hao, who felt that he still had a long time to come, was naturally unwilling to force her. After being urged for a while, he nodded in agreement, and the two turned around and prepared to go back. Although Wang Hao said so, the shyness of the girls still prevented Wanda from really doing anything tonight. They pushed me out. Do you think they don't know what's going on? Don't worry, we will live together for a long time in the future. We are all a family, so don't worry about anything. Wang Hao and Wanda looked back together. Wang Hao looked around again, and something seemed wrong. It was originally to play some mobile advertisements, such as what products are on sale today, and what products are new in the store. What do you think we are? We have been out for so long, if we don't go back, they will think us. Not only that, Wang Hao took out his mobile phone from his pocket, and Wanda also took out her mobile phone. The weird sound was not aimed at them, but came from the 1.8 TV set in the shop window. Wanda didn't say the following words. Now she is still a little bit young, and she is still in love, and she still can't GHS without changing her face. Hey Ocean, Check what's going on. Chapter 187 You are not alone. The sudden situation made Wang Hao and Wanda's procedures slightly slowed down. Wang Hao didn't say he was angry about the situation that caused his mobile phone to have problems, but he definitely felt a little provoked. So he immediately asked Haoshin to start an investigation. However, as soon as Haoshin was dispatched, a new change appeared on the snowflake-like screen. You are not alone. Countless words, countless languages, are playing such a sentence intermittently and uninterruptedly. You are not alone. This weird scene may make the hair stand on end in the eyes of others, but in the eyes of Wang Hao, it is so familiar. Where have I seen this scene before? Wang Hao thought about it, and at this time, Haoshin also responded at 18, and the search came to fruition. The source of the signal is satellites all over the world. After I hacked into the satellites of various countries, I found that there was a communication force controlling them, and the last thing I found was here. A picture appeared in Wang Hao's mind. Not far from his head, above the country, a spaceship from the depths of space was quietly parked there. I'll go, I said. Where did this sense of familiarity come from? It turned out to be a Kryptonian. The moment he saw the spaceship, a slightly distant memory made Wang Hao suddenly realize. Isn't this scene exactly when General Zod came to the Earth and broadcast to find Superman all over the world? If you look at it this way, this is the plot of Man of Steel? Advertisement. Wang Hao rubbed his chin, which was his habitual action when he was thinking, but he made a decision in just a split second. Go. Let's go back and talk. At this time, the message on the mobile phone has changed to General Zod announcing his identity, but these are not important anymore. Wang Hao took Wanda, stepped out, and returned directly to the hotel. In the room, Channer and Natasha Romanoff were also watching Zod's words playing on the hotel's TV. What's happening here? Natasha Romanoff pointed at the TV screen, and Zod's words were very arrogant. He directly notified the human government, demanding that the human beings hand over the Kryptonian named Karl Al, otherwise the Earth's civilization would be destroyed. Although Natasha Romanoff, including other humans on this Earth, do not know if Zod can do this. But alien, the term represents the unknown. Moreover, it is not impossible for civilizations capable of interstellar navigation to come up with weapons that are more powerful than mushroom bombs. So most people are full of pessimistic thoughts at this moment, thinking that Zod can do this. It's just an alien invasion, and it's not like you haven't experienced it before. Wang Hao sat next to Natasha Romanoff, hugged her, and said with a smile. You have been learning secret magic. Including Channer, the abilities of the two of you are mainly secret skills, but this is all right. I will give you a chance to upgrade. Kryptonians are the race and civilization that Wang Hao has been looking for and looking forward to. Not to mention the technology they have mastered, just their individual strength, the kind of genetic technology that has been developed to the extreme is enough to show everything. And who is he? Advertisement, tomorrow, it should be tomorrow, you can try it tomorrow. By the way, let a few of them go out for activities, then you will know why I care about them. With this kind of technology, even if Wang Hao is a cosmic god who can create new life and a brand new race, it is still difficult for him to make the life he created have such powerful power as the Kryptonian. So Wang Hao doesn't care much about many things. Occasionally watching the excitement is really just watching the excitement, and then he doesn't care after watching it. Wang Hao described it a little bit, but found that the women didn't quite understand it, so he said it directly. Unless he divides his own strength, he is born strong. Just because the genetic technology of the Kryptonians is equivalent to the genetic lock in some novels, it has indeed been completely opened. Unless it was a problem that Wang Hao really couldn't solve without taking action, most of the time he would rather eat popcorn in the back and watch a play with Channer in his arms. Kryptonians, are they powerful? Different from scumbag aliens like Chidori, Kryptonians are a racial civilization that has developed to the pinnacle of cosmic civilization. From the perspective of life genes alone, the genes of Kryptonians are already perfect genes, which is the limit that DC can achieve. Therefore, if Wang Hao can pay attention to something, it means that it is really important. Sun God. It's not a question of whether they are powerful or not. They are really rare. They are powerful, handsome men and women, coupled with advanced technology and the care of a certain will, so that they are in this universe. Very special status. Definitely, Wang Hao values the genetic technology of the Kryptonians so much because the source of Kryptonian power is the sun. Natasha Romanoff was a little surprised by Wang Hao's emphasis on Zod's group. In her impression, ugliness has always been omnipotent. If you want to go beyond this point, there is one and only way to improve the entire universe and make the life that the universe can carry stronger. Chapter 188. Go up and taunt. The turmoil caused by the Kryptonians is over soon, but that is for ordinary people. In the upper echelon of this world, the Kryptonians' question caused them to have many meetings overnight and how long they had been discussing there. Where the hell is that Karl Al? G alien. The Kryptonian spacecraft was right above his head, and President May was so angry that he threw something. But his think tank and the army have no solution at all. Judging from the ability of the Kryptonians to invade their satellites at will, it doesn't matter whether they launch missiles or fighter planes fly directly to them. These are useless efforts. In the modern information age, if you master the initiative of information, you will master the initiative of the battlefield. The Kryptonians bring the most cutting-edge technology in the entire universe to bully a small Earth. That is not called a cannon to kill mosquitoes, but pure crushing. The state machinery is activated, and all departments work together to search for all suspicious targets. Soon, the eldest daughter of General Lois of the military was noticed. An article secretly published by this female reporter named Louise Lois and some information she searched for were quickly targeted. At this time, it was better to kill than to let go. From locking to arrest, within a few hours, Louise Lois was locked up in a certain military base. Wow, this way of appearance surprised me. A man wearing a battlesuit and a cloak descended from the sky and appeared outside the heavily armed military base. The person in charge was naturally shocked, but then he was happy. After all, the alien has thrown himself into the trap, and mankind seems to have avoided a possible interstellar war and catastrophe. Then he immediately sent someone to contact the Kryptonians in the sky, and around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, a Kryptonian fighter plane flew down to take away the son of the Kansas farm, Clark Kent. Advertisement. Wait, when the fighter plane landed and Zod's deputy, Fiona, appeared in the military base with her 2 younger brothers, and pulled Clark to leave, someone who liked to disturb others most at such times appeared. Hey, don't rush away. Everyone turned their heads to look in the direction of the sound, and saw a group of men and women appearing in front of the originally empty camp. Tony Stark, it's time to use your expertise, go up and taunt. Wong Hao waved his hand, signaling the guy behind him to hurry up and keep someone. The rest of the people laughed when they heard Wong Hao's words. It's true that they might not be impressed by anything else, but when it comes to sarcasm, Tony is definitely the best they've ever seen. Even the good captain wanted to beat this guy up more than once, so one can imagine what will happen to those who are already bad-tempered. You are misunderstanding. How can I be mocking? Hey, you little cockroaches, can't the armor you wear be made to look better? It's black and not slippery, and there are seams. The mustache stepped forward, the mustache spoke, and the opponent's anger value began to soar. If you ask me, the technology of this alien is not very advanced, but the aesthetics are really not very good, the armor is ugly, even this fighter is made like a big stinky fart. Boom. A sonic boom sounded, and a figure disappeared in place, and then suddenly appeared in front of Tony. It's just a punch. Buzz. The protective force field that had been activated earlier firmly blocked the punch. Tony glanced at the recorded values and couldn't help swallowing. The cold-faced beauty in front of her is also a little irritable. The key is that this fist is too powerful. Advertisement, disgusting guy. Fiona's eyes were cold. Looking at Tony is like looking at 10 dead men. It wasn't that she was stimulated by this guy's words, the main reason was that this guy was speaking vividly and expressively. How about Wong Hao saying that he is full of sarcasm? A facial expression can make people hit him when they meet for the first time. With this ability, it's a pity that he is not an MT, otherwise he would definitely be a god-level mount. Well, why don't you go back first? Fiona's small fist still stopped in front of Tony's face. Although the transparent protective force field blocked the fist, she still felt a little flustered behind it. But Fiona sneered, and then waved. I saw a sharp blade shining with blue energy suddenly pop out from the forearm of her armor. Damn it. Without further ado, Tony transformed on the spot, and couldn't care that his battle armor was painted, by someone, so he turned on the full power and blasted towards Fiona. Who are they? The crowd who suddenly appeared, Tony who suddenly started to mock, and the 2 who started fighting suddenly made the scene enter an incomprehensible stage. Clark, the son of the farm, looked at the 2 people fighting together, and for a moment didn't know who to help. He is going to surrender himself in exchange for the safety of the Earth. But Tony looks like the human side is here to fight the Kryptonians. And the generals in the military base were also very entangled. The Kryptonian was already determined to be the enemy, but Wong Hao, were they enemies or friends? And Tony, who fought against the Kryptonians, is it the secret weapon of mankind that he doesn't know? Chapter 189. What are these people doing? Tony was fully armed, and opened the ability of the armor to the maximum, and fought with Fiona. But as soon as the 2 started fighting, Tony fell into an absolute disadvantage. In terms of armor performance, Tony's set is a new generation of nano armor that has been upgraded with the technology of the Nova Core after returning from Xandar, but it is not yet a Sentry armor. The technology of the Kryptonians has reached the peak level of the universe. Compared with the Nova Core, it may be that the focus is different, and they are even ahead in some aspects. After all, the Kryptonians are a powerful civilization that once colonized countless galaxies, while the Nova Core can barely be regarded as a powerful force in the Milky Way. Therefore, in terms of the performance of the armor, Benny's armor can only be said to be on par with Fiona's chlorine-style armor. But don't forget, even though Fiona hasn't basked in the sun, the Kryptonian armor on her body has the function of isolating cosmic radiation, which also isolates the energy of the fixed star in the center of the solar system. But the genetic basis of the Kryptonians is there, even if the biggest secret hidden deep in the genes has not been discovered. Just relying on the original level of arousal and the physique trained under the stronger gravity of Krypton 097, Fiona's strength is much stronger than Tony's. The speed of a nerve reaction alone is beyond Tony's reach. Often, just as Tony makes an attacking posture, Fiona has already made a countermeasure. Pietro, no, Quicksilver, because of him, as the boss, Wong Hao naturally couldn't watch his little brother get beaten for nothing. Although Tony was a little bit cheap, he was still his own man no matter how cheap he was, and he couldn't tolerate others. But it wasn't time for Wong Hao to make a move, so he appointed a newly recruited younger brother to act. Hearing Wong Hao's call, Quicksilver clapped his hands on his chest without hesitation, and a tight battlesuit suddenly appeared, wrapping his body. This is the name change gift Wong Hao gave him yesterday. Extremely fast people run with too much friction, and ordinary clothes will be burned directly after running around, so clothes made of special materials are necessary. Whoosh! Advertisement silver lightning flashed, the speed force was activated, Quicksilver disappeared in place, and the battle between Tony and Fiona in the distance became extremely slow from his perspective. Boom! With a punch, it hit Fiona's battle armor, but Quicksilver covered his hands afterwards with a bitter expression on his face. The battle armor is too hard, he can't move at all. So he could only try to push Fiona, pushing her body a little askew. The screen returned to normal, and Fiona, who just punched, suddenly rolled over. The powerful power of punching was disturbed, causing her body to lose her balance directly. If she hadn't reacted quickly and was well trained, she might have fallen to the ground. Shoot together and get rid of them. Sensing something was wrong, Fiona yelled at the subordinates behind her. She is a soldier, and the purpose of fighting is only to win. For this, any means are indifferent. The so-called heads up? The so-called rules of the rivers and lakes? What kind of rubbish are those? And following Fiona's order, the two Kryptonian warriors standing beside Clark, one tall and one short, stepped forward directly. The tall man is several meters less than Bifa, and his body shape is there, which also shows that he is a powerful player. But before he could make a move, a figure stopped in front of him. Your opponent is me. Seeing Fiona and Tony shaking hands, flip-flops, gray pajamas, and beard almost dragging to his chest, Thor, who was not holding a can of beer, finally couldn't help it. Advertisement happy to see you. The soldiers at the military base almost popped their eyes when they saw this scene. The aftermath of the collision of two fists looked more powerful than their missiles. Is this still human? This sudden movement directly attracted everyone's attention. He can still understand that the Kryptonians are strong, after all, he himself is here as an example, but why is Thor so powerful? Seeing such a fierce and powerful opponent, one word is the most appropriate to describe his mood. Clark, who was the closest, reacted quickly, and immediately protected Louise behind him. When the aftermath dissipated, he turned his head and looked at Thor full of surprise. But his opponent is not a mortal, but Thor. Boom. The tall man didn't talk nonsense, and directly punched out. The Kryptonian's excellent physique and the blessing provided by the kinetic armor directly formed a huge wind pressure with this punch. The two fists collided, the terrifying wind pressure gathered, and then exploded, and the shockwave spread around like ripples. So here comes the problem. Boom! The beer can in his hand was directly crushed. Thor went up from the bottom, and also greeted him with a punch. He was originally a fighting maniac, fighting thousands of years of war. Blinking his eyes, X-rays scanned Thor's body. The muscle density and bone strength that are not inferior to those of Kryptonians, as well as the astonishingly exuberant vitality, all show that Thor's strength is not unreasonable. What the hell are these people doing? Compared with Fiona crushing Tony unilaterally, the battle between the taciturn tall warrior and Thor can be called equal. Chapter 190. Save me, Mr. Tony, do you know them? Louise tugged on Clark's cloak. These people who suddenly appeared, not to mention the technology they had never seen before, were like aliens, and even their fighting posture, especially the flip-flop Thor, whose body was so powerful that she thought it belonged to Clark, similar. But Clark shook his head, he had never seen Thor and others, and from his field of vision he could clearly see that Thor was not a Kryptonian. From breathing to blood flow, there are too many details on the body. In fact, even those Kryptonians are different from his current state. But Clark knew the reason. In his spaceship, the intelligent program left by Jor-El told him that the power hidden in the genes of Kryptonians would not be activated until they were exposed to the sunlight of the yellow sun. I don't know them. I even thought they were a secret force of the military just now. No, the military, they only want to calm things down, so they won't stand up for you and me, not to mention, they can't control this kind of power. Louise is not an ordinary person, her father is General Lois, a high-level general in the military, so she still knows some things that ordinary people don't. Support, I need support. Although Thor joined the battle, it was Quicksilver who provided some help to Tony, but it is a pity that Quicksilver, who has just mastered the Speed Force, has no way to deal with Fiona. In other words, the Kryptonian is the Kryptonian for those who have not yet reached the ultimate speed. In terms of speed, the Kryptonian is not bad, although Fiona has not been exposed to the sun, but with the basic physical fitness, and the help of the Kryptonian armor, Pietro will not be able to hurt her for a while. Not to mention that Pietro is actually just fast, and doesn't have the strength to match it, and he doesn't know many skills exclusive to speedsters. What kind of phase shift, what high-frequency vibration and other special skills, that is the embodiment of the lethality of the speedster. Many people would think of letting the speedster hold a weapon, so that a quick attack can directly cause damage. But the fact is that the speedster who uses the speed force does not conform to the laws of mechanics, that is, the faster the speed, the greater the mass. Advertisement therefore, the principle of bullets will be greatly reduced in the case of extreme speed. Another point is that speedsters don't need weapons, their bodies are the sharpest weapons. Because of the high-frequency vibration, the speedster can penetrate any material and energy field in the world. Unless it is something specially made to restrain speedsters, no matter whether it is a human body or a Superman-like body, it will not be able to resist the penetration of speedsters. This is much more powerful than any sharp weapon. But unfortunately, Quicksilver mastered the Speed Force in just one day. Even Barry Wren, the creator of Speed Force, learned all kinds of skills under the guidance of Reverse Flash, a master who has been playing Speed Force for decades. So, now Quicksilver, his only way of fighting is to push people. He didn't even dare to use his fists, because Fiona's battle armor was too hard, and using his fists would directly break his bones. Ever since, Tony's situation has not improved, but now he has a little time to call for help. However, Wong Hao looked left and right, the fighters seem to be gone. Oh, it's a pity that the captain is not here. Wong Hao spread his hands at Tony, expressing that he was helpless. Help, I'm about to be beaten to death. Janata, I'll buy you ice cream for a month. Ask for flowers. The origin of the little phoenix is not clear to Tony and others, they just know that this little guy is very powerful. Among the ruins of the gate, there was a crisp cracking sound, armor, too. Advertisement, boom. Crack. Zero the gray-black figure flew up high and smashed directly towards the military base at a speed comparable to that of a cannonball, while the little girl in purple with her pouting mouth raised slightly stayed behind. The purple-haired little sister's eyes lit up, and then she shouted. That small hand that looked extremely tender and rosy and white gently grasped Fiona's fist, just like a bug grasping the iron fist thrown by a certain winter soldier. A girl in a purple hoodie, braids, jeans, and sneakers. No problem. Hee, your clothes are so ugly, why do you, a girl, wear such ugly clothes? As soon as the words fell, Fiona, who had just swung a heavy punch, found that there was an extra person in front of her. Looking at the gate of the base that was smashed down by Fiona, a group of human soldiers stared wide-eyed into camp, and looked at the cute and colorful girl outside with horrified gazes, who looked more gentle and lovely than their girlfriends. Child. But Janata is different. It is because of Janata that they are forced to return home from Earth X early. I want blueberry flavor. The cold royal sister Fiona didn't intend to make friends with Ganata, and punched out with her other hand, hitting Ganata's beautiful face directly. Oh my god, am I dreaming? Worry. Definitely, Fiona's focus is not on her looks, but on her hands. Chapter 191 You are so strong, so strong. Looking at Janata who punched Fiona flying, Clark exclaimed. As a bystander, he may be the only one who can clearly see Ganata's movements and know the strength of that blow. Clark, who has been repressing his powers for decades, doesn't know his limits. Like he didn't know he could fly before. Decades of growth have made him stronger beyond imagination. The seemingly tyrannical Zod was instantly killed by him in a single blow, destroying even the engine of the world. This kind of power has actually been suppressed all the time. It is precisely because of this that the third biggest bug in the field and the third most powerful monster are so surprised by the power of Janata like 950. And this time, his eyes couldn't see through. Thor was totally off guard, and he wasn't even transformed, so Clark could easily see through his anatomy. Definitely, he couldn't see that the essence of Thor's power actually came from magic, from divine power. It is said to be the third strongest, second only to Wong Hao and Little Phoenix, but in reality, Clark may not necessarily be able to beat Thor. Because Clark's magic resistance is negative, and Thor's lightning is magic damage. But the X-ray vision that works for Thor doesn't work for Janata. It's not that there is anything wrong with Janata's body, it's just because there is a special layer of protection around her. Ganata has a spaceship and a set of armor of the same type as Galactus. That armor can help her control her energy and help her eat the planet. As a set of battle armor, it naturally has some special functions, such as blocking some prying eyes. Stop staring at me. Advertisement. The siren of the battle armor system made Janata aware of someone's small movements, and the little girl gave up chasing immediately, but glared at Clark who was on the side. Sorry. When he was discovered, Clark quickly apologized and apologized. He was either voyeuristic, or he was just like game players who habitually click on objects to check their attributes, no matter if they're NPCs or whatever. But Janata is not a person who holds grudges. After seeing Clark apologize, she forgave him. But she ignored it, and a guy who had been liberated came up to him. Hey, I heard you're an alien. Tony, who showed his face from the battle armor, came to Clark and looked him up and down. Right. It's strange, the aliens I met are all high-tech. Why, you started to play hand-to-hand combat. Tony looked at it for a while and said very puzzled. The battlesuit on Clark didn't have any high-tech metal parts. It is an ordinary special material battlesuit. The effect is only limited to the point of durability. Even its protection against damage is useless, and it has no advantages other than durability. And this also means that Clark relies entirely on his own body to fight, instead of relying on the battle armor like him and Fiona. Because the most powerful technology of our civilization is biological gene technology, and armor is only auxiliary. Clark glanced at Tony, then stretched out his hand, and when he squeezed casually, he heard a clicking sound. The nano armor that was automatically repaired just now, the entire left arm was crushed. What the hell? Seeing that his armor, which was strong enough to withstand the missile bombing, was easily crushed, Tony's expression was the same as when he saw Wong Hao break his armor casually. Advertisement. Then his eyes switched back and forth between his armor and Clark's face, and finally gave up on asking him for compensation. Just asked unwillingly. You are so powerful, why don't you fight them, or help them? I don't think you were very willing to go with them, so why don't you resist? Hearing Tony's words, Clark gave him a deep look before speaking. Their target is me. As long as I go with them, they will let the Earth go. Oh, self-sacrifice to save the world. Tony understood in seconds, and gave Clark a thumbs up as a compliment. But Louise grabbed Clark's arm after hearing it. 30 or so, the wind and the sun can't beat a pretty woman, but I don't know why, these two have only met twice now, and they just look at Meng Do and see each other. Perhaps, this is the fate that exists somewhere in the universe. Clark Kent will definitely fall in love with Louise Lois, and Jane will definitely fall in love with Chang. But you are wrong in one sentence. Looking at the posture of these people, they are not here to negotiate. If they get you, they will not let the Earth go. Tony looked like he was holding the wisdom beads, but in fact, only 1.1 was Wong Hao who told them about the situation of Krypton and the world engine before they set off. Otherwise, he might also think that this group of aliens came to find companions. I've been through alien wars, twice, no, 3 times. Thinking of his experience near Xandar, Thor changed his words. So, you just need to remember that any aliens are here to invade, and they all have malicious intentions. Tony raised his finger and said to Clark very seriously. Well, I'm an alien. That's the aliens coming in the battleship. Chapter 192. Sorry, my mouth. Who the hell are you guys? Tony's remarks have already made the initial guesses of him, and Clark proved to be useless. In this case, either Tony is a lunatic and all the words just now were nonsense, or there are still some things in this world that they don't know. In order to maintain the order of the universe, to protect the peace of the world, and to implement love and justice, I from the infinite multi-universe, Iron Man Tony Stark, come to see me. Snapped. Knocked on Tony's head in the air. Have you watched too many animations? Didn't you chase cat and mouse before? Wang Hao, who heard a strange sentence inexplicably, was angry and laughed. This guy is chasing after him with a hyperspace communication device every day in his spare time, and he doesn't know what weird things he saw. My skin god is #1 in the world. Tony, who had been knocked on the head, resented, raised his hands and shouted loudly, 18. Come on, Pikachu, you are the best. After finishing speaking, he also looked at Thor, who was fighting fiercely, and cheered him on. Come on, use 100,000 volts. Confused by the scene in front of him, Clark glanced at Louise, and found that her eyes were the same as his own. After the two looked at each other, they finally made a judgment. This guy must be a psycho. Yes, if it is not crazy, who would go out dressed like this? Check out this colorful, bells and whistles, armor. Advertisement. The visor also has a large smiley face drawn with lipstick. He didn't see it directly and didn't pay attention to it just now, and then he started fighting with Fiona again, and now everyone noticed it as soon as he stopped. This guy is indeed a side stage. What Clark didn't know was that teacher Tony was also stimulated by this. He had no choice but to lose the bet, so his battle armor was taken by Wang Hao and others, including the Wanda siblings, and they drew 2 little wings on the back, whether they were grilled or fried. The colorful front painting is entirely done by Wang Hao. It's fashion, you know shit, you only know the gold and red Lubai. This is the jersey of a rock band I like very much. Have you heard of secondhand roses? Oh, I said fate? While explaining to everyone, Tian Hao was still watching, completely ignoring someone in the corner who had a nervous breakdown. As for the smiling face on the visor, the clumsy drawing skills and immature brushstrokes are definitely not Xiaofengwang's handwriting. After all, Little Phoenix is a great god of the universe, so how can it be difficult to beat her by drawing a picture? It was drawn by Natasha Romanoff. For this reason, she did not hesitate to spend 2 limited edition lipsticks she just bought. So the state of Mr. Tony at the moment is understandable, because he has lost his dreams, lost his youth, and lost his direction in life. Putting on this set of battle armor, he has completely let go of himself. So, to be honest, we came here from another universe, and our boss said, you are the best at fighting. Sorry, I want to fight 10. The armor of the battle armor was unfolded, revealing a hand, imitating the gesture of a certain kung fu master who was about to fight again. Tony waved wildly towards the military base over there. I'm here. Clark was left speechless by the man next to him, but he still couldn't help reminding him. Advertisement, I know, but I can't beat you, so I'm going that way on purpose. Tony said without looking back. Resisting the anger in his heart, Clark clenched his fists, and in the end, Louise patted his arm lightly, calming the flame in his heart. He's gone crazy, don't bother with him, Louise comforted Clark. Then I saw Tony suddenly turn his head to look at himself, looked at Clark after a while. Are you an Oedipus? No wonder why Tony asked this, because Louise's age has always been older than Clark in most universes, and this universe is no exception. In fact, this world is not bad. In 220 universes, Louise has already won the Pulitzer Prize, and Clark is just a young man who just graduated and started working. And in this world, Clark is probably only in his 20s, not counting the time spent drifting in the universe, while Louise is definitely in her 30s. In addition, Louise has been running outside all day, exposed to all kinds of wind, sun and rain, and Clark has a perfect physique. His skin is exaggeratedly tender than that of a baby. So the two of them stood together, even though Clark seemed a bit old-fashioned, but there was really a feeling of mother and child. So, this time it was replaced by Clark, who obviously felt the strength of his arm pinching him increase. Although he is not in pain, the goddess is angry. As the ultimate invincible explosive guardian wolf dog that can arrive instantly even on the other side of the earth if something happens to Louise. So Clark was also angry. Red light shines in his eyes. To others, angry eyes are an adjective, but to him, that can really be done. Sorry, I apologize. Chapter 193. Kryptonians are good. Teacher Tony bowed deeply, sincerely and seriously. Although he went out wearing a colorful Nagata-style coat and made his spirit a little abnormal, but because of this, he was able to do many things that were difficult to do in the past. For example, begging for mercy on the spot to let the hero spare his life. Although he has a cheap mouth, he begs for mercy very fast. So all he could see was the light in Clark's eyes flickering and then gradually disappearing, and the eyes he looked at Tony and Louise were full of helplessness. Never mind. Louise shook her head, and when the female Shendu spoke, Clark naturally had nothing to say. It was just such an interruption, but the situation on the field suddenly turned around. An unbearable moaning sound appeared from a certain corner, and the few people with extraordinary perceptions present quickly discovered this. Afterwards, Wang Hao, Clark and others all looked over. In the collapsed wall of the military base, a figure stood up unsteadily, and a layer fell from her body. What? As she roared to the sky, two red-hot beams shot out from her eyes and rushed to the sky. How is this possible? Clark's eyes widened, and Louise also showed doubts. Only Wang Hao showed a meaningful smile when he saw this scene. I only mastered heat vision when I was 7 years old, why is she so fast? Clark pointed to Fiona, who was exposed to sunlight after her armor shattered. In a short period of time, Fiona completed the most important metamorphosis of Kryptonians. From man to god. Advertisement. Although Kryptonians are powerless to magic, even though Kryptonian souls are not stalwart, even though Kryptonians have various shortcomings. However, no civilization and no one dares to deny that the Kryptonian body is a divine body. At the peak of growth, relying solely on the power of the body can shatter the stars. This body is already so strong that there is no limit. Countless fantasy worlds, countless fairy worlds, countless magic worlds, in terms of physique, regardless of cultivation, Kryptonians are the most top existences. What's more, practice. How much practice can match the growth rate of Kryptonians? In 10,000 years, I don't know whether it is the cultivation that can become a fairy and become the ancestor, or the magic that can be reincarnated as a lich after more than 100 years? Or is it the immortal way poured by the blood and tears of countless celestial beings? The cultivation party comprehends nature, and a bad brain is a waste. The magic party looks at the destiny. Without the favor of the gods, it is rubbish. The fantasy party has exhausted its resources. How many fairy kings have been accumulated in each big world? Saiyans have been tempered endlessly on the edge of life and death, and a family of grandchildren has been born. It's all rubbish. In the face of these people, Kryptonians have the confidence to say such a sentence. What resources, what abilities, what gods, what battles? Labor and capital can live forever if they bask in the sun, and they can run rampant in the universe. So, such power should belong to me. Wang Hao stroked his smooth chin and said with a smile. Advertisement. He came to this world for several purposes. The first one was to give Pete some speed force, which has been done. The second is to subdue the Kryptonians, which is about to be completed. And the third one, he just wants to fight against a cosmic god who is really at the same level and as powerful. Darkseid. It is the ontology, not duplication. Although Darkseid has been pushed down many times, and was laid down again and again by Zhenglian, those are all duplications, and they are all projections of his body projected in the multi-universe. The same goes for the Steppenwolf that Zhenglian defeated a few years later. In fact, the same is true for Eternal Infinity. When Wang Hao put on the Infinity Gauntlet to change everything, Eternal Infinity appeared to meet him. But that is only the Eternal Infinity in the single universe, and it is the duplication projection of the Eternal Infinity of the entire Marvel multi-universe collection. It is roughly equivalent to the sun god in every world, countless planets, countless civilizations, and all the sun gods and light gods they worship are duplications of Wang Hao. Including this world, when Wang Hao appeared here, the brother of Diana and Ares who really existed in this world, that Apollo naturally became a part of him. After that, what Wang Hao will face is the new king of gods who has been staying on Apocalypse Star and never left, Darkseid. However, he is not the only one on Apocalypse. Darkseid is the king of new gods, and there are many new gods, money ones, and he doesn't want to have 3 or 2 big cats like Asgard. Like the Steppenwolf who was overthrown by Clark after a few punches, his body is much stronger, and Clark is still very casual. Therefore, in order to create a fair, just and open fighting environment and ensure that he does not overturn, Wang Hao had to find some younger brothers. Kryptonians are great. The full power of the sunlight supplement, the creation engine and the extraction of the gene pool are completely enough for Wang Hao to create an army of Kryptonians. So when he saw Fiona transforming there, Wang Hao suddenly stretched out his hand, so the clouds dispersed, the light refracted, and the light from hundreds of millions of miles away gathered on this woman under his guidance, straight. Chapter 194. Under the eyes of everyone, endless solar energy poured into Fiona's body, scorching, intense energy even forming a ray of sun in the void. The soldiers in the US military base had long been irritated by the strong light and closed their eyes. Even Tony had to put on the visor, but he still couldn't see clearly what was going on inside. No more than a handful of people on the scene could look directly at this ray of light. Among these people, Janata and Little Phoenix looked indifferent and didn't care about what happened at all. They only thought about what to have for dinner later in their little heads. On the other side, while protecting Louise, Clark's eyes widened. He could see the light clearly, and it was because of this that he was particularly shocked. Fiona is undergoing metamorphosis. A horrible metamorphosis that took him decades to pull off. And this made him panic. The Kryptonians were not kind, although from Jor-El to Zod and others, everyone instilled in him the revival of Krypton. But in the past few decades, he has lived the life of a person on Earth. From the perspective of cultural identity, he even regards himself as the Earth. At most, it's a land seeker with super abilities. Because of this, revival of Krypton is not a mission for him, but a burden. The so-called burden is the responsibility that you do not want to bear, but you have to bear. But Fiona is different, and Zod is different. They will do whatever it takes to revive Krypton. For them, the revival of Krypton is not a burden, but the supreme ideal in their hearts. Advertisement. It can't go on like this. If it goes on like this, nothing on Earth can stop them. Clark murmured. If they were only just beginning to come into contact with the sun, and the supernatural side of the Kryptonians had just begun to awakening, then Clark still had the confidence to suppress them. After all, power awakening also takes time to grow. Bidge, and extraordinary perception will bring huge amounts of burden to the user. It took Clark many years to get used to the super hearing that could hear everyone and the special ability to control the eyesight. But Fiona is rapidly passing that stage. Her growth rate is like someone gave her a large experience capsule, just now awakening is about to reach the full level. What? With this thought in mind, Clark stared, and his fiery gaze shot straight towards Fiona, who was in the sun. Definitely, as kind as he is, even at this time, he never forgets to be merciful, and his eyes are aimed at the place on Fiona's body where the fragments of the armor still remain. However, this hot gaze that wanted to interrupt Fiona's growth didn't work. It's just because Fiona's growth rate, or in other words, the speed at which the warrior-type Cyanostar adapts to power far exceeds Clark's imagination. Buzz. The air vibrated, and a same hot gaze shot out from Fiona's eyes, and two attacks of equal power collided in the air. After a brief contact, the energy surged and rapidly expanded in the air, followed by an astonishingly powerful explosion. At this moment, the light in her eyes was flickering, her crescent eyebrows were slightly frowned, and the sudden influx of information made her spirit tense. After taking off the battle armor, what emerged from the light was a slender female warrior with short hair in a tight black battle suit. Advertisement: bravery, perseverance, strong adaptability, unyielding fighting spirit, obedience to orders, and the desire to fight. A major feature of Kryptonian genetic technology. For example, Clark's father, Jor-El, is the greatest scientist on Krypton, but he was destined to become a scientist from the moment he was born. Because of this, Jor-El said that Krypton is rotten to the core, because the social structure of Krypton is too rigid, and it has lost the most important vitality of civilization inheritance. All people perform their duties, workers are born to be workers, and leaders are born to be leaders. But just as Zod quickly adapted to the change, when Clark flew back Louise in a safe place, after a few deep breaths, Fiona's expression returned to calm. In addition to being proficient in various combat skills, she does not lack the excellent qualities that a warrior should possess. The moment the explosion happened, Clark realized that he was fine and could bear it, but the person next to him couldn't. Turning around, looking at Louise at the side, Clark's movements were as fast as lightning, and flew to the side with Louise in his arms. Through technical coding, they can make the newborn baby's abilities stand out in which part. Not good. In fact, the Al family has been a family on Fosun representing knowledge inheritance and civilization development for generations. And Fiona, who was also touched by shockwave, didn't move, but with such a confrontation, the gathered sunlight began to dissipate slowly, and her strength increased and reached the bottleneck. As Zod's adjutant, Fiona is also an excellent fighter in addition to her leadership and assistance skills. Efforts lose their meaning, so in the end the whole society will only meet with death. Super hearing, super perception, it feels like the whole world is squeezing towards you. Chapter 195. Superman learns martial arts, Carl Al. Fiona's eyes were full of fighting spirit. When an excellent fighter who yearns for battle, desires power, and worships power gains almost invincible power, what she hopes most at this moment is an evenly matched opponent. Fortunately, she found it. Boom! It may be difficult for ordinary people to imagine that when the ultimate power erupts, even nature can only tremble. Fiona's two long legs, which are enough to make many supermodels feel ashamed, don't look thick. But when she bent down slightly, and then ejected vigorously, a circular deep pit with huge amounts of spreading around like a spiderweb appeared under her feet. Correspondingly, it is Fiona's terrifying speed driven by the reaction force. Boom! This time, it was no longer the scream from the earth, but the terrifying shockwave when Fiona slammed into the steel body. Oh ho ho ho, hit him, hit him. In fact, Wong Hao regretted that the length of the film was limited after all, and it was limited by the production ability, so the extreme scene of the Kryptonian War was actually still incomplete. Not only that, although there was a forced battle between Zod and Clark at the end, in fact, Zod's strength at that time was not enough to compete with Clark. It's not in vain to have been exposed to the sun for decades, and why there are so many Kryptonians in each universe, but there is still only one Clark Kent who is strong enough to fight Darkseid. The reason is that Clark's potential is to some extent higher than other Kryptonians. Because apart from him, other Kryptonians are the products of genetic debugging, but Clark has integrated the entire creation book, that is, the gene pool of Kryptonians. In other words, the whole essence of Kryptonian genetic engineering was concentrated in Clark alone. For example, Zod is an excellent leader and warrior, but he cannot be the best scientist and artist. Advertisement, but Clark can. In addition to being free to choose his own path, under the precipitation of time, he can achieve the ultimate in every field that Kryptonians can do. Such as the most powerful fighter, the most powerful artist, the most powerful scientist, and so on. Because of these 2 points, after a fierce battle, Zod's death was unclear, and things that could be explained clearly did not have to use some bitter drama. It is straightforward to explain that Clark is actually stronger than Zod, and it is enough to suppress his own strength, but it is necessary to use the image of civilian lives being threatened to enhance the protagonist's Virgin Mary. In the metropolis destroyed by the previous war, how many civilians died? At that time, if you didn't explode, why did you go there? Therefore, Wong Hao felt very sorry, it was not enjoyable to watch. So he single-handedly created a fighter who could truly match Clark. Come on, Fiona, I'll treat you to hot pot if you win. As Fiona's family and friends, Wong Hao waved his arms to cheer her on. On the other side, as if she felt Wong Hao's encouragement, Fiona became more and more courageous in the battle, and her small fists bombarded Clark's body non-stop. Compared to Clark, who simply relied on absolute strength and speed to fight, Fiona was a professionally trained fighter. All kinds of fighting skills, all kinds of throat locks are almost at your fingertips. If you are facing someone who is weaker than you, at least most of the time, this is the case, even if you are facing the Steppenwolf. There's basically nothing wrong with Clark's fighting style. 1 force down 10 will. Isn't martial arts practiced to the end to return to the basics, pursue a fast, accurate and ruthless way and you're done. But the point is, now Fiona's strength is almost the same as his. Advertisement. Asking for flowers. At this time, the importance of skills is reflected. After a set of military punches, Clark didn't even have a chance to fight back, and was hung up and beaten by Fiona the whole time. Waste, 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 Fiona yelled while beating the human sandbag. It's getting more and more angry. Everyone in Clark was stunned. I was the one who was beaten, why are you angry? There is such a powerful power, but you don't know how to use it, Kal-El. You have disgraced the Kryptonians, and the Al family is ashamed of you. A heavy kick sent Clark flying, and Fiona continued to chase, but suddenly, Clark, who was fixed in the air, showed anger on his face, and suddenly stretched out his hands, grabbing Fiona's fists. My name is not Kal-El, my name is Clark Time Saver. Fiery-colored light flickered in his eyes, and the background on Clark's body began to show its effect. Although Fiona suppressed him again, this time he didn't just get beaten. Well, he is still being beaten, but compared to just now, he has made obvious progress. Fighting skills, that's skills, the super brain that can learn a new language in a few seconds allows Clark to learn and adapt quickly. The direction of the punch, the speed of the punch, and the subsequent changes, combined with all the information about fighting that has been seen in the past few decades. Boxing matches, fighting games, kung fu movies, body mechanics, human anatomy diagrams. All knowledge is quickly integrated and digested in Clark's brain, and then transformed into usable knowledge and skills. From Fiona's point of view, she is still the attacker, but Clark, who is constantly retreating and evading, has begun to adapt to her attack rhythm and began to resist. He got stronger spoon.